How are you doing today, Josh?
I am doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right.
Well, welcome everyone to the next episode of Unratified ACR.
Yes.
Uh, Glad to have you here. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. No, I'm happy. Happy Sunday. Happy. Happy. I don't know what. I don't know who's playing right now, but obviously, if you're here with us and not watching football, shame on you.
Shame on us, maybe.
For having this during football season. Curse
Right.
you. Right.
Go sports.
Yes. Go sports ball. Sports ball with the sports teams. Team sports. Go team. Um, it's terrible. Yeah, let's see. What today's Sunday. We had an eventful time last week. We went over section 6, which was about how Congress gets paid. I believe something of that nature.
Yeah.
And a
Dollar bills, y'all.
couple other things. But this week, it's and we I believe we gave a sneak peek about this week last week too. We watched a wonderful video um, called "I'm a Bill,"
Yeah.
and I think that's what we're talking about this week. Are you as excited as I am, Josh?
I was just thinking that they need to bring back Schoolhouse Rock. Like do do some more episodes.
Well, I mean, well, not unfortunately, because PBS is mainly funded by viewers like you, but sorry, I couldn't help it. But it also got grants through the government, which is now, from my understanding, have been pulled, and they're not getting paid anymore. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's unfortunate.
yeah. God forbid we educate our populace
No,
in
no,
how
no, no,
our government works.
no, 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 no. We want stupid people. Those are the best people. Um, so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me jump over to the web view here to show what section 7 is. I think let's see, the legislative process is what this one's, what they've coined for this one. Um, and when we get into the three constitutions we're looking at, I'll review some stuff. But legislative process. Do you have this in front of you, Josh, so we can take turns because there's a lot to read here.
I do. This is just section 7. I have it pulled up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So section 7 in the original Constitution is it's for the I'd like to point out a little bit of the efficiency of the people that created our government. Okay, they managed to put into 3 paragraphs how laws are passed. How all bills are passed for laws. Three paragraphs is what I'm seeing here for the legislative process. I mean, if you look at the Constitution as a whole, I want to say I think it's 3 pages, two or 3 pages, 2 pages front
Well,
and
it's
back, I
all
believe.
yeah. Yeah, it's all pretty incredibly efficient.
Yes,
That's how I would describe it.
yeah, which is amazing for that time. I guess they didn't have reams of printer paper to print things out on back then.
Yeah, but I don't even think that's what it's about. Like, the efficiency that you create through from it, like using the smallest or the least amount of words possible leaves well, you hope that it leaves as little to interpretation and to that it's as concise as possible. Now, then
you,
again,
yeah, you would
you
hope.
know, people can say 20 or 30 words and not really actually
Say anything.
say anything or say anything that you can derive data or information from.
Why
Or
why use many words when few words do trick.
Yeah, right. But yeah, there is an elegance to what they've written overall here. That's for sure.
It is. It's very surprising. I would personally not want to try to read it off the actual paper of the Constitution, the original, because man, their handwriting. I just
Yeah.
that's some elegant stuff in and of itself, and no lines on the paper. Like, come on, they had to draw lines.
Yeah, but I wonder how many times they had to start over. They're like, "Oh man, I was kind of drifting off the
And they
side of the."
when they get
Like
down to like the
shit,
last three lines, and it's like, oh yeah, gonna
and
start it all
everything's
over
like
again.
diagonal. It looks like this, like
Okay, wait a
on the
second.
on the page.
Do you think that they because we all do this? Do you think that they actually chose? Well, hey, Frank over here's got the best handwriting. No, 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 no. It's George. George is the man. He's got the nice. Nope. Okay, we're gonna go with Tom. Tom over here. He's the man with the handwriting. He knows what he's doing. Do you think they actually had a thing where they decided who was going to actually pen it?
They probably fought about it, honestly. Like my handwriting's the best. Like F you. Like
Well, it
like
wasn't Ben
I'm
Franklin.
writing this thing down. No.
Ben had
I mean,
notoriously bad handwriting, like really bad handwriting. Yeah, but anyways, let's read this wonderful thing. I'll start off, and I'll let you take the second paragraph since it's the shortest. Okay, first paragraph. All bills for raising revenue. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and do you want to read the whole thing, or do you want to go piece by piece? You just want to read the whole thing?
yeah, let's just read the whole thing.
Okay, let's read the whole thing, and then we'll come back and break it down. All right, all you.
Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approves, he shall sign it. But if he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. After such reconsideration, 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill. It shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases, the votes of both Houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal for each House respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law.
Okay. So, in layman's terms, we're just trying to put this out there. House of Representatives and the Senate pass both. Goes to the president. The president can return it. It goes back to the House where it originated. Put the objections on the journal. Proceed to reconsider it. They vote 2/3. It goes to the Senate. They get 2/3. Then it becomes a law. But in cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by all that. So it just puts in a thing there about the journal. And this is really interesting. If the president doesn't sign it within 10 days after it was presented to him, then it becomes a law, like he signed it. So you can't. Essentially what it is the president can't.
You can't sit on it.
You can't sit on it and say, "Well, I'm not going to sign it." He either has to veto it or sign it, one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so last paragraph here. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and the House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. So that's essentially saying that if the president vetoes it, if the same bill gets passed by the House and the Senate by 2/3, it's passed.
That's my take as well.
Yeah. Let's see if there is. Oh, let's see. Da-da-da-da. Okay, certain rules how to go. It's I did find interesting, like in that first part, and this is something that that the Senate likes to use to get things in on revenue bills, or to get in on amendments on other bills or stuff like that, things for revenue, because it says all bills raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. So it essentially gives them the ability to propose amendments to other bills and to add them in there of things that raise revenue. And that's where you get the line item things, to where people are tacking, what do they call it? Pork, adding pork to bills.
Yeah.
To get their little thing in. So that's an important thing to remember. Let's look and see what the Constitution, what the National Constitution Center says about common interpretation. So let's see. Let's see how its first clause, known as the origination clause, requires all bills raising revenue originate in the House. The second, the presentment clause, requires all laws to be presented to the president for his signature or veto. And the third clause is the presentment of resolutions clause, prevents Congress from sidestepping the presentment clause. Taken together, these rules channel lawmaking through a process that promotes thorough deliberation over the wisdom of any new legislation. So the origination clause comes from English parliamentary practice, requiring all money bills to have their first reading in the House of Commons. Framers borrowed this practice, hoping it would confer the power of the purse on the legislative body most responsive to the people. Makes sense? House of Representative, supposed to represent the people. That's where the money comes from.
Well, it's our money, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah. As such, only the House may introduce bills for raising revenue. And here's where you get the pork. Although the Senate is explicitly empowered to amend House-originated bills, any other type of bill may originate in either the Senate or the House. Part of the Great Compromise, a concession to larger states, which were dissatisfied with the smaller states' disproportionate power in the Senate. It limits the power to introduce tax and tariff bills exclusively to the House of Representatives. Well, that's interesting. It limits the power to introduce tax and tariff bills exclusively to the House of Representatives. Wait a second. Are we not going through something like this right now, to where there's a contention over tariffs? Have you heard anything? Have you
There's a contention over tariffs?
Have you? Not at all. I don't know what you're talking about. From my understanding, and from a few things that I have read or listened to from the news, this is currently being argued in front of the Supreme Court about who has the power to introduce and or enact tax and tariffs. Some people may be familiar, may not be familiar with what's currently going on in the country, but.
Well, in the light of that, and I don't want to get too into the political.
Yeah, we're just talking about.
Scene.
Yeah.
Okay. The tariffs that have been introduced and put in place that last year, were they done by executive order, or were they?
Yes.
Did they?
They were not passed through Congress whatsoever.
That is interesting. I wasn't paying that close attention to it.
Yeah, no, none of that went through Congress, and that is what is currently being heard in front of the Supreme Court.
So, then I guess my next question would be is, since up until I believe it was like 1890 or 1900, most of the revenue of the federal government came from tariffs. And I believe it's been a little while since I looked into that. I'm wondering, were those laws or those tariffs all passed through Congress, or were they done was it done through the executive branch?
All that stuff would have been done by Congress. All bills, where is it? The origination clause for raising revenue. All bills, all laws for raising revenue must originate in the House. So, and we'll talk about that. There is an act that was put into place in the I think it was the 1800s somewhere, that is what the current court case is being argued about. But we need to keep this in mind for, when we're talking about how this stuff is written. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, period. Like and then the Senate can propose or concur amendments as on other bills. So they can tack it onto another bill, which I don't believe that any tariff stuff has been put on any bills whatsoever. It's all just been, hey, we're going to impose tariffs. That's what we're going to do. Like that's what's happening when, according to the Constitution, anything that raises revenue has to originate from the House of Representatives. That's what it says. So,
I find that incredibly interesting that it says it so plainly right there in the Constitution, and yet there are so many people blatantly willing to just completely ignore that said document.
I mean, that seems to be happening.
I mean, honestly, it's terrifying.
Yes, correct.
Because if you can ignore that, like you can ignore anything else.
All laws. If you're going to ignore the founding document of our country, then what do any other documents mean? They mean nothing.
Exactly.
This is supposed to be the highest law of the land, supposedly.
Yeah. Well, they might as well be toilet paper in my bathroom.
Correct. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they have Constitution toilet paper to where they have the Constitution written on toilet. It's got to be. I'm telling you, it's got to be there.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, civically, how I feel about that.
Well, I mean, that's just like, there's flag laws.
Well, this goes back to our offline conversation of like the willingness. I mean, when I think about it and you put it in the perspective of like the freedoms that we enjoy in this country and our ability to make our own choices to a certain extent, I would probably argue are some of the greatest freedoms, if not the greatest, in the modern history of this entire planet.
Yes. When the country was created, correct. Yes.
And so looking at that and knowing that if somebody actually was using these words that have granted us these freedoms over the last 240 years, I find that a little disturbing, just by itself.
You ain't wrong. I mean, it's one of those things where when you look at like what was laid out before us, and this is the problem when it comes to laws and or agreements or things like that. It's only as good as the ability to enforce it.
Yeah.
So that's the problem that you have is, and man, we keep going back to this, civic virtue thing. But if somebody decides that they don't want to listen to what's put in there, the only way to stop them is by doing it through whatever lawful
Yeah.
means is out there. And that's where
Well,
the whole military thing comes in. And then who controls the military is the person that actually controls the law, because they're the ones that are able to enforce the law by nature of fear and or bloodshed or whatever.
yeah, all those bad things.
Yes. So
It
it's really really interesting that you know yeah. So this is the origination clause. That's the first piece. It was part of the Great Compromise because the smaller state and larger states, we got that. It limits power to introduce tax and tariff bills exclusively to the House of Representatives. Larger states enjoyed where larger states enjoyed greater representation. But while the clause was hotly contested during the Constitutional Convention and the ratification debates, the Senate's power to amend revenue-raising bills has deprived the clause of much practical significance. So, so because the big states that had the people, hey, we want more representation than the little states, and if it's that compromise as well, the spending bills won't originate in the Senate where everybody has equal representation. It's going to originate as a representation from the people. But the fact that they added that clause in there basically means, well, okay, well, sure, yeah, you put forth a spending bill, and then we're just going to tack crap onto it, like
yeah.
and it doesn't quite have as much teeth as you would think, other than the fact that anything that raises revenue has to start in the House. Period. Like that's it, right? Like that, it's right there. Like it doesn't, and I understand it too, because if you give the power to tax or raise revenue of some sort to the executive branch, you might as well not have a legislative branch, because then they can pass whatever they can do, whatever they want to raise whatever
Yeah.
revenue, and that's where it was that balance of, well, we're
Yeah, you
not
might as
going to
well have a
give.
king at that
Yeah,
point,
it's not a
or
king.
a despot, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it.
yeah, that whole thing. We don't want a king saying, "Oh, tax the people, do this, give me this money, give me that money." You want the people to do it. So
Yeah.
it was a big thing.
Although, although I do wonder, and it made sense for them back in 1787. Like, as far as I understand their argument that they wanted their states represented, and that the people should be represented. But in today's political climate, it's almost like that doesn't even matter, because it's just about the partisanship. It's
Yeah,
is your party represented? Nobody cares, because it's like those representatives don't even actually. And I hate to throw out such a wide net. I would say some or most of those representatives aren't. They don't care about their constituency. They don't.
yeah,
They care about towing the Republican or the Democratic Party line. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
look at what's going on in Texas and California. Where like we just had an election, I think last Tuesday, where
yeah,
where they passed the gerrymandering proposition to redraw on the lines, and it's infuriating, because it's wrong on both sides, because and,
Been watching
and,
F1
and
for
then
the last 8
it's not about the people at all. And then you got
correct.
people that are all up in arms about it, like the oh yeah, we should do this because of this, and it's like you're completely ignoring the spirit of what this is supposed to be. That your representative is representing the 333,000 people
Yeah,
that's in his or her constituency,
yep,
and we're not even having that conversation. It's just about, like, is my party going to win? Is my party,
correct.
and like, that's going to get you what you want, or help you in your daily life,
Yeah,
or make your life better in some way.
no,
And
you're not wrong. That's for damn sure.
yeah, I'm not saying that anything in this needs to be changed. It's just, yeah, it's infuriating, and in today. that this is what it was supposed to be about, and it's turned into my team versus your team.
Correct. Hey, sports team, sports ball, woo!
Yeah,
Um, you know,
go teams.
they say go. I don't. Yeah, go teams. No, it's and you're. That's the unfortunate part about it, and you see the current. Like I know North Carolina passed a redistricting bill. Um, there was another one. I don't know if it was Virginia. I don't think it was Virginia. There's been multiple states, and if you look at the Constitution, we already went through this. That if you go back into the Constitution under section, I believe it's 2. Remember when we were talking about the whole thing
Yeah,
of district drawing? In section
yeah,
2, it says it's only supposed to be done every 10 years. It's supposed to be
yeah.
done the year after the census, and we're in year 5.
Right.
So we're halfway through, and people are redrawing districts, which
Yeah,
is quote unquote in supposed direct violation of the Constitution,
yeah,
supposedly. You know, if people cared. Um, anyways, so yeah, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating when you look at this stuff and you see what's happening, and it's all because we want to do this, and we're in power, so you don't have a choice.
yeah.
I mean, and if you look at it from that perspective, I mean, I don't believe it was voted on in Texas, right?
I don't know how it went down in Texas. The part that scares me in California
It was
is that
voted on,
it was proposition put to the people.
put to the
The
people, and the
people,
people
yeah,
said
and the people said yes, we want this.
yes.
Like, and that absolutely scares the shit out of me.
Uh huh.
Where, um, it-
Well, but it's only temporary, if I'm not mistaken. It only goes till 2030.
I'd have to go look at it, but just
Yeah,
the fact that,
I think it's a temporary. If I'm not mistaken, the California prop is a temporary thing to where they will redistrict to gain about 5 seats for Democrats, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around in there. But they're going to redistrict to do essentially the opposite of what Texas is doing. Texas is redrawing to gain Republican seats. And California, if I followed this right, said, hey, if you guys do that, we're going to put this to a vote to the people because California has laws in place to where people have to vote on it.
yeah,
Texas does not. Texas can do it in their state legislature without the will of the people. They can just redistrict and redraw however they
yeah,
want to, as long as it passes through the legislature. And unless somebody can correct me on this, I believe that that's how it works. In California, there are laws in California that say that if this is going to happen, it has to be put to the people, and they have to vote for it. So the fact that the people in California have voted to pass this temporary redistricting is kind of crazy. Um,
yeah,
but I don't know of any other states that require it to go to a vote in order for the redistricting to happen.
yeah.
And that would have
Yeah,
to
I don't know.
be
I'm sure there might be some out there, but
probably,
I
yeah.
know. Well, and for
North Carolina
living in
doesn't.
California,
I know that.
living in California most of my life, like I have noticed that where they try to empower and push things back on the people and make sure that that they have that choice. Now, granted, the state legislature should be doing that, and the people that you should be putting in power should be representing your will to a certain extent. But it's always a balancing act, right?
Oh
Where
yeah,
do you tip the scale?
yeah. So it looks like, I mean, if we're looking at this map here, there's been actually quite a few. There's been, okay, so California, we know California and Texas. Looks like Utah did a redistrict. Missouri, Indiana is looking at it. Ohio did. North Carolina did. And Virginia and Maryland seem to be on that as well. Um,
Looks, yeah,
so let's see. Virginia, okay, so if we look at this, Virginia is holding a special session to redraw the state's congressional map in response to the recent wave of Republican gerrymanders nationwide. Voters will decide whether to allow the state to advance that map that could net seats for Democrats before 2016. So voters will decide. So the people are going to decide. Litigation,
yeah,
the Senate passed a constitutional amendment that would allow the state to redraw its congressional maps. The measure must pass again next year before it's approved by voters. Interesting. So again, you have a state that is actually taking it, like the voters have to vote for it, which is what we would like. Um, let's see, Maryland Governor Westmore announced the creation of a redistricting commission, recommend redrawing the state's congressional map to counter GOP gerrymanders. While one GOP district could be up for grabs, Democrats so far have shown reluctance to redistrict. The commission is expected to hold public hearings before making recommendations to the governor and lawmakers by the end of the year. So this one is there is it's a possible, but it isn't on the books. Carolina passed. I know that. North Carolina swiftly enacted the new Trump-approved congressional gerrymander at the expense of the state's black voters. Litigation said North Carolina voters sued to block the map. So it's going through that. They gained one seat in North Carolina. It looks like it's 10 Republicans, 4 Democrats. After the redistricting, it'll be 11-3. Ohio, redistricting is part of a constitutionally mandated process that requires the state to adopt a new bipartisan congressional map by the end of October. On October 31st, Ohio enacted a new gerrymander that will be in effect through 2030. In a 7-0 vote, the Ohio Redistricting Commission adopts a new congressional. So that's even a commission that voted on it. The people didn't vote on it. So, and that's going to lose. The Democrats will lose 2 seats that'll go to Republicans. And that was the people don't have a choice to vote in Ohio. It seems it's only the redistricting commission that gets the choice. I think. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? So North Carolina and Ohio, both the people don't get to vote. Let's see, Indiana, the governor announced he'll call a special session to redraw, but it looks like Republicans could target both of the states. So there's two Democratic seats there. Possible get rid of them. The special session is set to begin on the 3rd. So we'll see what happens there. That one's not. Missouri, let's see, passed in a rushed special legislative session. Now Missouri voters are challenging the map in court and collecting signatures to hold a veto. Advocates are challenging some of the state's rejection of some signatures they've gathered. We talked about this.
Yeah, it's been mentioned.
Yeah, Republicans are suing to block the referendum. Advocates are also suing based on the argument that mid-decade redistricting is illegal in Missouri. So they went from 6-2 to 7-1. So they gained a seat there. What did Utah do? Why would...
Does Utah even have any Democratic?
No, they're all Republican.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, what are we doing here?
Wait a second. They enacted a new congressional gerrymander after the court struck down the state's 2021 map as a partisan gerrymander. In addition, enacting a new map would help the party hold all 4 of the state's congressional seats. Republicans also passed a bill that would weaken the court's ability to strike down their gerrymander. How amazing. Advocacy groups sued to block the new map. Of course, suing is the way. Yeah, unconstitutional, da-da-da-da-da. And then, of course, Texas, to take 5 seats away from Democrats. State lawmakers enacted a new gerrymander that could hand the GOP 5 more seats in Congress at a minority voter's expense. Of course, advocacy groups immediately sued. A recent concluded hearing will determine whether the new map can be used in 2026 midterms. So, yeah, again, the people didn't vote. So, North Carolina, Ohio, I think, Missouri, special legislative session. Again, the people didn't vote. Texas, the people didn't vote. And Utah, it doesn't look like the people vote. So, for some reason, in the red states, or the states that are trying to flip Democrat seats to Republicans, the people don't get a choice. California, the people voted, and they voted Prop 50 to redistrict for Democrats. Virginia, it has to go to the people. Voters will have to decide whether to allow the state to do it. And Maryland, commission is going to hold public hearings before making recommendations. So it's funny that some people get to vote and some don't. It's funny how that works.
Well, the way I see it, like I said, I would be okay, I think, putting it at the state legislature, if I actually trusted that the people that we were voting in, and at the end of the day, that's the people's fault. What you know, like
To an
the
extent,
onus is
yeah.
on them,
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
and that you're electing someone that is not representing your best interest.
And
And you can,
it only takes one time, because once they get that power, and then if a state, if the gerrymandering doesn't allow this, doesn't require the people to vote on it,
yeah.
then you're
So
done.
there's
At that point, you're done.
yeah.
Like you're,
So there's that too.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, and do you put something like that in a constitution? Do you put the requirement of the
Well, I think
constituency?
we have it. I think we have it covered, man. Like federally, you just say it's an open source algorithm. You control the data going in. It's the same for every single state, and then the algorithm spits it out, and that's what you get, and everybody gets the same thing.
Yeah, across the board.
Yeah,
Nobody gets a
yeah,
choice. States don't get a
yeah.
choice.
You define the data parameters, and
That's
and
going to
we're
be
done.
that's going to be key, is defining the data
Yeah,
parameters of what, like, how is an algorithm going to cut up a state based on the
yeah,
concentration of people? I mean,
yeah.
because we people do it
I,
better, obviously.
obviously,
Yeah, no bias in there at all.
I I'd almost it I'd almost be willing to let an AI decide on the data parameters rather than people.
Well, I don't think that I mean, we can take. I just watched a crazy AI video last night, which was interesting, but that's not for this podcast.
Yeah,
But yeah,
fair enough.
I mean, the AI is going to take over everything, and we're all going to die anyways. Okay, let me just put that out there,
Yeah,
right? Um,
yeah,
so okay, back to what we were talking about here. So when we're
right.
talking about the origination of bills, and this is when we're talking about, we elected these people to have our best interests. And I was pondering this earlier. We put in there that this is supposed to be for the general welfare of the people, right? I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. Congress is supposed to do stuff for the general welfare of the people. I mean, we haven't gotten to that part yet, but that was in the preamble. The whole point of this document is to promote the general welfare of the constituency. And I was wondering, pondering how far you could take general welfare. Like, could you say that a bill that limits the people's ability to choose, or says that this one company has the ability to, they're like, from a monopoly standpoint, I know that monopolies come into it, but can it be construed that the wording general welfare, well, you're going to argue about what's better for the people, what's better for the constituency. And I mean, I guess that all depends on who thinks, what does better mean, and what is better? Is it better that you have one internet provider across the United States that is regulated by the government and provides full infrastructure and no regulation on that infrastructure? Or is it better to have 30 different private companies run it? What is better for the general welfare of the people? And
Yeah,
how would
and
you
I
argue that?
yeah, I think that's a great question. And I see both sides of the argument, right?
Yeah.
Where you want to have competition and you want to have, and
Engine,
that
inventive
breeding innovation
innovation.
and
That's the
and
word.
and new ideas and whatnot. But there is something to be said for some sort of regulation and control. You look at all the I'll use cryptocurrency as an example, and all the bad things that are happening from that, and the the way that money is being laundered and moved around, and it allows criminal enterprises to move freely and move with impunity, and not be tracked or traced.
Well, I
I
mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, they and so if you go that regulation route, I get it. It's more stable. People there's a from an experience standpoint. There's a shared understanding, a shared idea of how things are going to be, and where if you have like 30 or 40 competitors, like, and especially when you look at ISPs, internet service providers, you're you could have people that end up with a new ISP that end up with a completely horrible experience. They get scammed. They're blocking access to specific sites for whatever reason, be those monetary or ideological or whatever it ends up being. And and then if none of that's regulated, people have other than switching to a different service provider,
If it's available.
they have no recourse.
And then you go the other end of that spectrum and you say, well, if it's all regulated by the government, then that means that one entity has control over everything. And then what's to stop them from doing something like saying, oh, well, you can't go to this site because the government, we say you can't because it's not good for the quote unquote general welfare.
Which they're already doing. Like I mean, when I trade in certain cryptocurrencies, like none of the I mine Chia, like an altcoin, and none of the U.S. None of the U.S. exchanges have that coin on their exchange.
Yeah.
So I have to log into a VPN either through Mexico or Canada, and then and only then can I get to these outside exchanges that where I can trade, and then I have to go through three different steps to move the coin, or I usually trade from Chia to Bitcoin, and then I have to move the Bitcoin back into my U.S. exchange.
So maybe
So
you shouldn't be
so
talking about this on video
I don't,
recording.
am I doing something illegal?
I have
Like
no
I
idea.
mean,
I have no
yeah.
idea. I don't think
Yeah,
that
I mean
there's enough
that
regulations
was
out
just
there.
a thought experiment. I'm not actually doing that. I was considering it. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yes.
Yeah.
They're allegedly disappearing people, right? Um,
Yeah. I don't think they're allegedly doing that anymore, man. I just read that Abrigo Garcia thing, man. Like, I don't want to get into it, but dude,
well, yeah, no. I
trying to
mean,
send this dude
those
to Liberia where he's never been before in his life. Like, it just,
those two guys standing behind you with the masks and the guns might,
yeah,
they might have something to say about that.
they
Um,
might.
no, so okay, so back. Let's get back on. I mean, the funny part is what we're talking about is quite relevant to what we're talking about in the Constitution because of if the way that these bills are passed and how things are done in our government has a direct effect on us. Maybe not necessarily the next day, but within time, if the House of Representatives does put forth a bill and it says, hey, we want to cut, the government ran healthcare and we want to gut that, by half and get rid of people's benefits. And then it goes to the House and the House says, yep, we're okay with this. But since we're going to save $1 trillion, we want to, give these people tax breaks, or we want to give more money to the military, or we want to give more money to this state or that state, and they put their little line items in there. And then I believe it goes back to the House to be reapproved, maybe. I don't no, I don't think it does. I think
Oh,
once it's in the Senate, they can tack on their stuff, and then it has to be passed through the Senate, and then it goes to the president. I I mean, that's kind of shoddy. Like if you're talking about for like it doesn't. It's really interesting. And there's you can try to think of all different ways. A line item veto. From whether it's the House of Representatives, the Senate, or if the Senate adds anything, it goes back to the House, and then they have to I think that's a way that they do. If the Senate rejects it and says no, you like at any point during you can have it vetoed from the Senate or vetoed from the president, I believe, so that it can go back and they say no, you got to change this stuff. I mean, how do you?
According to chat,
go ahead.
it has to go back. It has to go back to the House.
Has to go back to the House. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
They have to, because you can't change the bill and then only one house gets to vote on it.
Yeah, it can't go straight to the president. It has to go back to the House, and then
they have to reapprove it and then go through there. Yeah,
so,
here it is. The
and then it specifically says once only
clause.
Yeah, only once both chambers have approved the exact same text.
Correct. So this is the presentment clause. Hey, we're bringing it back here. The presentment clause is no such paper tiger like the origination is. The clause provides that the bill can only become law if, after passage by both houses of Congress, it is presented to the president. The president has 10 days to either sign the bill into law or reject the bill, return it to Congress with an explanation of the objections. If the president rejects the bill, he or she must return it to the House in which it originated. Process is known as a veto. So if you have a spending bill that from the House and it goes to the Senate and it passes, if the president rejects it, it goes back to the House, not the Senate. Though the word does not actually appear in the text of the Constitution, it doesn't say veto anywhere. Congress may then modify the bill and respond to the president's stated objections to increase the likelihood of presidential approval. Alternatively, Congress may override the president's veto if both houses can pass the bill by 2/3 vote. Then it becomes law. Doesn't matter what the president says, because then essentially it gives the power of the people or the representation of the people to enact something whether or not the president says yes or no. So it gives essentially power to the people, the elected representatives of the people, to pass something if there is enough want to do it. So matters are more complicated if the president does nothing by the end of the 10-day window. If Congress is in session, the bill becomes law. A phenomenon known as default enactment. If Congress is out of session, however, the president has no place to return a bill that he or she wishes to veto. In those circumstances, the president may effectively veto the bill by taking no action. This process used by James Madison during the intersession recess of 1812, known as a pocket veto. Congress may not override a pocket veto. Interesting. So if Congress is not in session, if they are out of session, president can't return it. So what exactly constitutes an adjournment for the purpose of has been a source of conflict, of course. Pocket veto case. Does any adjournment count, or just those adjournment that end the session? Like there's been some court cases on this. And these are the little things. Like when you're looking at this and it says the president, it has to be returned to the House. It doesn't say anything here about the House being out of session or whatever. But just by saying, well, if they're not in session, how can I return to it? So therefore, we can't do the 10 days. The 10 days don't take effect because I can't return it. So there's no reason for me to veto. I can't send it back, which still doesn't make any sense because, I'm sure that the founding fathers were probably like, either veto it or not. Either you like it or not. Like, what are you waiting for?
Well, and then on top of that is James Madison was a founding father as well. So, like, I mean, and to me, I feel like Section 7 is beautifully written. I don't necessarily know if there's anything. I mean, there might be some guardrails that need to be put in place, but to me, this all goes back to that civic virtue that we keep talking about. And it's like, people want to play stupid games, man.
Correct.
Like because they get it so in their head that I can't let this pass, or like there's no way I'm gonna let this happen. And I get and I guess the question becomes, and how do you even know this of a person? Of like, why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you're standing on your morals and you believe that this is bad for the country? And if you did that, and if you thought that, why wouldn't you then go back to the Senate, go back to the House, and be like, please, like, let's not do this, and here's why. Get the people involved, like, have them, hold a press conference, do whatever, like, and say, hey, this is bad, and here's why, and I need everybody to get on board with this, rather than throw your ego into it and be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna find a loophole, and I'm gonna pocket this thing, and it's never gonna become a law.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, like, I would think that, okay, Congress goes back into session, and then they just take the same bill, and then they send it back up to the president's desk after the adjournment, right?
That you would think. And this is, so they refined this. I was just reading this part. Refine that interpretation. So, holding that determinative question is whether Congress has adjourned in a manner that prevents the president from returning a bill to the House in which it originated from within the time allowed. Let's see. Both houses adjourned, even though the legislative session was not over, but the houses were adjourned. And then later, so what the houses started doing was designating an agent, such as the secretary or clerk, to receive the vetoed bill. Modern practice is more fluid. Several recent presidents have purported to pocket veto bills even when the originating House of Congress has designated an agent to receive a veto message. This is interesting because I really find it funny that they can adjourn, like, okay, so the 10 days. So if they send a bill to the president, let's say on a Wednesday, so 10 days would put them on what, Friday of the next week, except it doesn't
Yeah.
include Sunday. So that would be, let's see, 7 days would be Wednesday, so it'd be six. So 7 would be Thursday, 8 would be Friday. Okay, say they do it on a Monday. I'm just trying to get the weekend thing here going. So say the 10 day ends on a Friday, and the House or the Congress has adjourned on Thursday, said, hey, we're going to be out till Monday. Well, the 10 days hits on Friday, and the president has to return the bill. Okay, well, I'm just going to, that would be a pocket veto. They would take it, well, I don't have to respond because they're not in session. But I would think come Monday, when they're in session, right?
Yeah, you would think.
You would think that is, you know, yeah, I don't understand. Like, it's not okay. So yeah, you have an extra couple days over the weekend. Like, what is, I don't, like, it doesn't mean you don't have the, like, you can't veto or you can't whatever. You can't hold on to the bill. I don't. We're gonna have to, might have to look into that a little bit more. Third and final clause, known as the presentment resolutions clause, concerns the presentment of orders, resolutions, and any issues other than bills. Presentment of resolutions was appended at the behest of James Madison. Oh, he comes up again, who foresaw the possibility that Congress might circumvent the presentment process by fashioning a bill as a resolution or order. Gotta love the words. Oh, this isn't a bill, this is a resolution, so we don't have to send it to the president. What?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like, similar to ruling by executive order,
Yeah, I mean, it's an executive order. It's the same thing as a law, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm using it to put my thumb on the will of the people,
Correct.
and press down on it. But yeah, dude, it's fine, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Let's see. To avoid circumvention, the clause says that any issue requiring the concurrence of the House and Senate, whatever issue happens to be called, must be presented to the president. A congressional declaration of war, for example, comes in the form of a joint resolution. Although it is not denominated a bill, it must be submitted to the president for approval. So that's every order, resolution, or vote to which a concurrence of the Senate may be necessary. Yeah. So essentially, it takes and says it doesn't matter what comes out of it. Before it can be passed, it's got to go to the president. So so you had people back during that time thinking about those loopholes, like, hey, what are we going to do if someone calls this a resolution or an order or a I don't know. Well, this is just a piece of paper. We just got some
Yeah.
words here. It's a paragraph. It's not an order. It's a paragraph. Did you vote on it?
I
Yeah.
mean,
Got to go to the president.
the the way that I'm looking at this is that it's an if else algorithm, you
Yeah.
know, and 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 all people are trying to do is not all the time, but what they try to do in situations to get what they want in that moment is is find a bug in that algorithm. And like
Yeah. Like,
and
how do
it's
we get around this? If we don't like the guy, if we don't like what he's doing, how do we get around this? And here's not all issues require presentment. It explicitly exempts questions of adjournment, and under Article 5, congressionally proposed amendments to the Constitution are sent to the state legislators, not to the president. The president does not have to approve a constitutional amendment. More generally, resolutions are not meant to become law or subject and are not subject to presentment. Yeah, so resolutions do not become law. Congress may, for example, adopt concurrent resolutions setting budgetary goals without seeking presidential approval, which is hilarious to me. So we're going to adopt this resolution that's going to set our goal. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. It's just saying, hey, this is what we're trying for. Whoo, here's your participation trophy. The same
yeah.
holds for the resolutions that apply only to the operation of a particular House, such as imposing censure or expressing the mood of the House. By the same token, legislative subpoenas are not presented to the president for his approval. So, I mean, that's. Oh, wait a second. This is actually important. The Supreme Court reinforced the presentment of resolutions clause and vindicated Madison's prediction, most famously in INS versus Chadha, ruling that it is unconstitutional for Congress to use a resolution to overturn an executive action. The court reasoned that such a legislative veto circumvents the presentment process and infringes on the president's power to execute the laws. So,
But if that executive action goes beyond the scope of the law,
then it
that's
goes.
kind of what I'm
Yeah.
that's
No, no,
kind
no,
of what
no.
I'm wondering.
You're absolutely right, because that's looking at that as well. But what they're saying, I believe that this was Congress would have to pass a revision to whatever law was being used by the president, because, well, you passed this law, I'm enforcing it, so
Yeah.
you need to pass a new law to stop that says that I shouldn't be enforcing this law that you already passed.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot. And they also they also have other things in here. I highly recommend people go read on the National Constitution Center for different parts. There's quite a bit of stuff that they have in here about this. So I'm interested. This stuff is constantly evolving. That's the biggest thing. It's like things are constantly changing. It's really interesting to
Oh
find
yeah.
all of these different things, the way that people have argued this stuff, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this better, more concise. Make it the way
Well,
that it
and I
was
think
intended.
more palatable for everyone, right?
Yeah,
Where you want to get more people involved when rather than looking at something and saying, oh, well, this is just too complicated. And you just throw your hands up and
yeah.
like whatever.
And I mean, it's not like this isn't complicated, because it is,
Yeah.
because there's 200 plus years of work around this, of very smart
Yeah.
people trying to break it. Very smart people of trying to take advantage of different situations. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking. We're supposed to have our best and brightest that we're supposed to send into government to do this stuff, well, obviously they're going to create ways or think of ways to get around stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right. So
I,
go ahead. Do you have
I
one to
was
add?
just going to say, yeah, we want our best and brightest, but we also want the best and brightest of us that are also going to be civically minded and have the best interest of everyone at heart. And
Correct.
I think the second part seems to be what we're missing quite a bit of.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, so now we go to the part where we look at these different constitutions that the Constitution Center has put out. They did their little thing. So we're looking at the conservative Constitution first. We talked about this in the last one. The conservative Constitution, they have their sections all mixed up because they added a section, or they changed Section 6. They added it, and this is about impeachment. And then they moved Section 6 to Section 7, which
Yeah, screw those guys,
is the
man.
compensation. And then their Section 8 is the bill. That the Section 8 is the I'm a bill section on theirs. So what they did, from my understanding, exception is provided that every bill, order, resolution, or vote which shall have passed both houses by simple majority vote before it shall become law shall be presented to the president for approval or disapproval. It shall become law if approved by the president, or if not disproved within 10 days, or being disproved, and shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and the House of Representatives. They kind of stuck everything in that first one, right?
Hmm.
Kind of surmised everything into the first one. So, within 3 months of any law going into effect, such law may be repealed by a vote of 3/5 of the governors of the various states, or by vote of governors representing 3/5 of the population as determined by the preceding census. Okay, so this is interesting.
That is interesting.
So this gives the states the ability to essentially repeal a federal law if you have 3/5 of the states, which is how much? 3/5?
Um,
33, if I'm
or,
not mistaken, because we have 50
yeah, that sounds
states.
right.
30, right around 30. I think it's 30. 30. We have
Yes,
50
30.
states. Yeah, so 30 states would have to, 30 state governors, or governors that represent 3/5 of the population. So that's an interesting. So if
Yes,
you
it
get
is.
3/5 of the population, or 3/5 of the states, so 30 states, or what's 3/5 of the population? I wonder if they're. It doesn't say. Okay, so I already found a problem. 3/5 of the population, voting age population, or just population?
Yeah, good question.
Because you got a lot of people that are under 18. But if you take, okay, so 3/5 of what, 340? Is that what we got? 340?
Yeah.
So what's that math for me?
So about 205 million, 206 roundabouts.
Okay. So we're talking 200 and some million people. I mean, I don't know how many states that is, but if you get the populous states, New York, what is
Yeah,
it?
I'm kind of wondering. You get New York, Texas, and California, and then and then maybe a few runners up.
So we got 340 million. California is essentially 40. Texas is 30. Florida is 20. New York is 20. Pennsylvania 13. So I mean, you got a ways to go to get 200 mil. I mean, you got. Yeah, I mean that would be. I mean, you'd have to look at it and see if you took the quote on just because of the way that our country is right now. If you split the red and the blue states, what would be the population split? We would have to do that. at a different time. I'm not. I mean, if you want to sit there and try to figure that out, so that's an interesting. They added a
Oh,
clause.
Chat GPT is doing it for me.
I'm sure that there will be no problems with their math.
No, it looks pretty accurate to me. So you would have to get down to Virginia or Virginia.
Virginia,
Yeah, Virginia. Uh,
terrible, terrible.
you're terrible. Uh, so yeah, California, Texas, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, New Jersey, and Virginia.
So the 12
Virginia.
states, 12 states.
Yeah.
So you could get the 12 most populous states, which obviously there is a mix of red and blue states there. I believe that there is more red states than blue, but I could be wrong. Okay, you take California out, you take New York out, Pennsylvania is a swing state. You take Illinois out. You probably take Michigan and Jersey. Yeah, so I mean you're taking a good 20, 30, 50, taking a good 100 million people if you take the blue states out of the top 12.
Yeah.
So you're going to have
About
to,
half.
yeah. So,
Yeah. A lot of this though, like when we talk about this stuff, I feel like we're trying to solve for the problem of partisanship, which I feel like
oh
one
yeah,
of the biggest things that we're trying to weed out of the whole system is that partisanship.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that we need to get rid of.
I agree. I'm just trying to, if you take this in what our current situation is, what does that look like? Does three
Yeah.
fifths? I don't think that you're going to have three fifths, whether it's blue or red, right now. Currently, I don't know
No.
that you're going to get three fifths either way. Maybe you
No,
can.
I think there might be like 26 or 27 Republican governors right now.
Yeah.
So,
So, but what do you think about having it to where the states can repeal a federal law that's passed by Congress within 3 months? Within 3 months, if the states can come together to repeal a law in Congress, which is really interesting when you're looking at that, because you're not giving, like, you're talking about the elective representatives passing this law. Like, it has to pass the Senate, which has the state representation, and it has to pass the House, which is the people representation. And then you have a law, and then the governors come in and say, eh. So you're creating a third body of federal government at that point, or is that giving representation back to the states by saying, hey, well, from our perspective, from the governor's perspective, or the legislation of the states, we don't like this law. So is that a way to promote states' rights by giving them the ability to repeal a federal law through through legislation?
on it on its face, I like the idea of an escape hatch of some sort.
Yeah.
But is it too much? Is what I'm wondering.
Well,
Like you have.
the thing is,
Go
it's
ahead.
not a people vote. You're giving it to the governors because
Yeah.
you're saying the governors representing three fifths of the populace, or three fifth or 30 states, governors of 30 states. You're not giving it to the people. You're not giving it to the state legislation. You're giving it to governors. You're
Yeah.
giving governors the power to reject a federal law, or to essentially repeal a federal law. Not
Yeah.
not reject and say we're not going to do it. We're talking about repealing a federal law at the state level.
Yeah. I get that. To me, like I said, it's just another lever in the process. That's the way that I'm looking at it. Doesn't matter who it is. I mean, we could change it and say, a vote of the people, and then
Yeah.
and set it up so there's some sort of trigger in the process. I mean, I think the governor's thing simplifies things to a certain extent, but it does give one person quite a bit. Well, not one person, a group of people,
Yeah.
quite a bit of power.
Yeah, you're creating essentially a third body of federal government that allows the ability. You're giving a third body of 50 people the ability to repeal a federal law, to
Yeah, that has
repeal
been put into place by the will of the people. So,
by the representatives of the states and the people. So I don't know if that's I don't know if that makes sense
I don't know if it does either.
because you're talking that would give, if you had enough governors or whatever, you could repeal a spending bill. Like
Yeah.
you would have the ability, any law going within 3 months of any law going into effect, such law may be repealed. So that wouldn't be a spending bill, I don't think, because that's not a law. I don't think, but any law
I
can
think
be repealed.
appropriations bills are laws.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you get 30 states that didn't get 30 state governors that don't get to participate in a particular bill that has funding for 20 of the other states, and they come together and say, "Nope, sorry, but those 20 states aren't getting it. They don't get any money because we didn't."
Yeah.
I don't know that I like.
Um,
I don't know that I like that.
not the maybe not the government. It doesn't I really start to think it through, having the governors do that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
The escape, because in my head the escape hatch would be is, you, let's say you voted in this these groups into Congress and Senate. They get together and they decide that they're going to stop listening to the will of the people, and that they're going to enact law that just based on their own ideology.
yeah.
And then the you get the president and the executive branch on board with that. Then the and the people are all just looking around and saying like, well, wait, this is not what you lied to us. Like, we didn't. This is not what we voted for. Like, we don't want anything like this. It would have to go back. In my mind, it would need to go back to the people.
Go back to the
Not
people.
Yeah, not to the governors. Where you're saying like, hey, I like all these people are saying I'm not being represented, and we're all agreeing that this is not how we thought that we were going to be represented.
Well, I mean, you take a look at it. So you give a one person representation per state the ability to repeal a law enacted by two representatives from each state and the people's representatives. This is where it gets confusing for me. Is like,
Well, and the executive branch as well. You're repealing the will of the executive branch.
yeah, because maybe not. Depends on if the president vetoes it, and then
Sure.
if it's passed
Yeah.
by the 2/3. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But I mean, the main thing you're talking about is the legislative branch.
Yeah.
You're saying a law was enacted, however it was, whether it was the will of the legislative branch and the acceptance by the president, or if it was just the legislative branch, an overwhelming amount of people said, "Hey, yeah." I think that this escape clause, because you're essentially creating, like, you have your big people representation of 435 people, then you have your state representation of 100 people, 2 people per each state, and then you're saying, well, then there's a group of 50 people that have the power to say both of you are wrong and screw you all.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And especially when you frame it like that, and I think that is the correct way to frame it. I don't really like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about the ability, if you have 3/5 of the population, which it was 12, right? 12 governors. So if
Yeah.
you got
Well, I
12
think
governors,
it ends up being 14.
14, okay,
Yeah, it says 13 states get you just shy, so it would have to be around 14.
14. Okay, so 14. So you could either do 30, or you just get the 14 most populous states. So you could do less than 30. So
Yeah.
you could have literally less than 3/5 of the governors because you're doing the populace at that point.
Yeah.
And
And
you
there's ways to mix and match with this where, if you take out one, you go get three others.
correct.
Basically, you could get anywhere between 14 and 29. to
Yeah.
reach, would be my guess.
Yeah.
That yeah.
So between 14 and 29 people have the ability, well, 14 and 30, between 14 and 30 people have the ability to override the people's representation, the state's representation. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that you
Yeah.
would give that power to those people, even though you're trying to say, oh, well, states' rights, it should be the will of the states because we're all in a union, da 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 da, all of this stuff. Yeah, but you're still talking about people that were elected. You're still talking about elected officials by the populace to do this stuff. So you have to look at it from that perspective. If there's going to be a law that you'd have to go to the people, I think that that's the only way you could repeal a law like that.
To
I mean,
me, it's the only thing that makes sense.
other than suing, other than going through the courts and the court
Yeah.
striking it down as unconstitutional. Yeah, so
And
I
and
don't know
I
that I'm in
and
agreement with this.
yeah, I don't think I am either. And the pushing it back on the people, I mean, I think that's a nice idea, but like in theory, but I would like to think that there are enough levers and mechanisms and decision trees in this process already that's
That's going
to
to handle that. Yeah.
yeah, to weed out everything else.
Well, I mean, even I would rather than enacting something like this, I would rather have up the representatives to 800 or 1,000
Right,
to
which is
give a
what we
better
already talked
representation of the
about.
people, right?
Yeah, and we already talked about doing that.
Yeah. So that to me that would be better than having governors have the ability to repeal a law. Like I don't. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I understand what they were trying to do here, from a conservative perspective, because the states make up the union, so the states should have the ability to do this. But that's what the Senate is. The Senate is supposed to be the state's
yeah,
representation in Congress. So why would you then create a representation of the governors of the states in Congress? It doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
Well, and in my head too, it's almost like they're operating under, and I want to say that this is more of a conservative view where they generally want to keep things the same. The idea of federalism and dual federalism specifically, I think it died in 1933 when FDR started taking more power from the states, and then especially with the federal income tax in, like, I think it was 1913, something like that. There there's not this dual idea of like, hey, the federal government has these specific rights and the state governments have these ones. It's all intertwined
Yeah.
there, and it's all mixed up for better or for worse. I don't know the answer to that. And I think that might be the modus that they're trying to operate under, or what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to bring some of that back.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I know I don't like it. I don't. It kind of undermines what the federal government is. It kind of
Yeah,
undermines the fact that you already have representation from the states.
yeah,
I mean,
but now,
if you want to go back to where the governors have the ability to repeal a law, then have it be 50 people instead of 100 in the Senate, and there you go. You have your yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't make
It's
sense to me.
it's almost like they want another bite at the apple. Like
Yeah.
if things don't go their way, like
Yeah.
they have another way out of, because like I said, at any given time, let's say let's say there ends up being 30 Republican governors,
Yeah.
and then they don't like something, and then just like, okay, well, that's it. Like,
Yeah, and it's not just the ability to recall a vote or say, hey, we're challenging this law. You're talking about repealing it. You're talking about saying nope, null and void.
yeah,
Like that's yeah. I don't. I get what they're trying to do, but you already have representation. That's the point of the Senate. So it doesn't make sense to give the states more representation, because you're giving again this is one of those great compromise things. You're giving the smaller states more representation than the bigger states.
Yeah.
And I to be honest with you, I don't even know if that is as big of a deal as it is, for now, as it was back then. Like back then it was a huge deal. Like you're talking about Rhode Island getting the same representation of Virginia, Virginia being the richest and literally like where most of the money is coming from in the colonies. How are they going to have the same representation? And that was a big thing. Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, all of those large states saying that, oh, Massachusetts and Rhode Island get the same representation as we do. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, moving on from that piece. Every rule or regulation promulgate promulgated prom, promulgated. I can't believe I can't say that word. By the executive department pursuant to enacted law must be present in Congress. Wait a second. Every rule or regulation. Oh, okay, okay. All right. So this is an interesting one. So this goes along the lines of things like the FCC, the SEC, the Homeland Security, Department of Education, all of these executive organizations in the executive branch. Every rule or regulation essentially made by the executive department pursuant to an enacted law must be presented to Congress and may be disproved by a majority vote of both houses of Congress without presentment to the president. Such rules and regulations shall take effect 3 months after presentment to Congress, unless sooner disproved, but Congress may at any time thereafter revoke such a rule in accordance with this provision. A failure by Congress to act shall not be constituted as an approval for purposes of judicial interpretation of the act of Congress pursuant to which the executive department has acted, nor shall such failure to act affect any judicial determination as to whether such act of Congress impermissibly delegates the legislative power of Congress or otherwise complies with law. If the president designates a regulation as an emergency measure, the regulation shall go into effect immediately unless disproved by a majority vote of either house. So this is an interesting one. And this is where this is the conservative viewpoints here. Essentially, the executive branch cannot make laws under the interpretation of an enacted law promulgated. We're gonna
Promulgated.
promulgated. Sure.
Yeah.
If I wanna
Words.
exactly. I think it's made out from. It means to make something known publicly or to put it into effect, especially law or regulation. Okay. New law, which is officially published or put in effect. Okay. So what they're saying is you can't make a new law based on an enacted law, pursuant to an enacted law. So you're talking about the FCC being able to regulate things, the environmental agency being able to create laws and regulations based
Yeah.
on an enacted law. So you're essentially taking away the ability of you're taking away some of the power of the president to enact law, to do their job and execute the law that has passed Congress. So it gives Congress the ability to say, nope, that's not what we meant by that. You can't do that. And then all of the other wording in here, all this other BS is essentially saying just because we haven't ruled on something, just because there's been no action against the law, or we haven't, doesn't mean that we approve of it. But we can always come back and say, no, that's not right. I'm not totally opposed to this because
I like it in theory. In theory.
correct. But I wonder in real life how much time, how much effort is going to take up of Congress to. Okay, so the EPA. Hey, you can't put lead in. You can't have this much lead in the water anymore. It's bad for people. You can't put this in here. Congress has the ability to say, nope, you can't do that. We voted, and you're not allowed. We're repealing that. You can't make that law. I don't think that they would because obviously, lead in the water is not healthy.
Says you.
Exactly. I wish I had
Yeah.
more. I need to put on some weight, right?
Yeah.
It, but also it goes from the standpoint of it could do any regulations. You can't tell people that they can't dump toxic waste in the water. Just because you say it's not healthy doesn't mean we agree to it. So, or it could go even further. I mean, you could take it right now, and you could say, the president, ICE or whoever is out there now, you don't have the ability to arrest and deport people. You don't have that ability.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't specifically say that you could run down to Home Depot and scoop up everybody that's everybody there that might not necessarily have legal paperwork
Yeah,
and is trying to find a job,
yeah,
or or say deploy the National Guard in what you consider an immigration emergency.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do this, but it's the FCC saying that you can creating laws saying that telecom companies have the ability to enact limiters or have the ability to block certain things that they
Yeah.
deem necessary, or there's a lot of things that it essentially gives the ability.
Or charge people for data usage.
It essentially gives the ability of the people or Congress to look at anything rather than, hey, you said you gave us the ability to enforce our immigration law, so this is what we're doing. Or you gave us the ability to regulate this utility or to regulate this, so this is what we're doing this. Yeah, but we didn't say you could do it that way.
Yeah. And I, like I said, in theory, I like that a lot because there are, I personally, I feel there are too many government agencies out there that are built around the executive branch where Congress has ceded power and
Correct.
said, well, we don't have the time or the expertise to deal with this like on a daily basis, so we have to we have to assign people, to do this,
Exactly.
experts to do this for us.
Yeah.
But then, but now I think you run into the problem that we had probably for the last 50 years, where you have these agencies that are running away from the law and running away from themselves, and they are a law unto themselves.
Correct. And that's a concern. So I like the idea that you give Congress the ability to essentially disapprove by majority vote any rule or regulation. So they
Yeah,
have the ability to say,
they can rein it back in.
yeah, they can say, hey, yeah, we gave you the power to do this, but this rule or regulation that you put in here is not in the spirit of what we told you.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It would be a start to reducing some government overreach and government bloat.
yeah, but I'm wondering why can't they do that now? Well, I guess this is I think the majority vote, a majority vote in both houses of Congress. Okay, without presenting to so the only way that they can do it now, this would be the change. Now, if they want to change something and say, hey, you can't do this, they have to create a law or a resolution or whatever. It has to be voted on by both, by both houses, and then sent to the president. So this is saying, hey, we gave you this power, or we put this law into act, and your execution of this rule or regulation that you've made based on this law that we enacted does not follow the spirit of the law we enacted. So we're going to say that you're not allowed to put this law or regulation into place. I mean, and I'm sure that there's probably some way that people could abuse this, but I like it. Rather than them having to repass a law, they can essentially say, you can't, we have the ability to line item our previous law that we've enacted based on, what your interpretation is.
Yeah.
I I like it to an extent. I think obviously there's more that needs to be, there's other ways that we can do this, but I like the fact that it can go to Congress, have the majority of the people and stuff. You're not, and they could just do a rule or regulation, not the enacted law, like the previous one where the governors had the ability to repeal a law in and of itself. I like this. Hey, we can bring something up to Congress. We can say, hey, this is the rule or regulation that the executive branch has put in place. We want to vote on this and say whether or not they can continue to do this. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page, and I'm sure it's like everything else. There's going to be the law of unintended consequences, and somebody's going to figure out a way to abuse this. And it's like I I keep having to tell myself, it's like, you have to. I think we have to write or change things in the spirit that people are going to act in good faith. And I know and I know it feels like people in government right now, they don't act in bad faith, or they don't act in good faith. Unfortunately, I just don't know how we write laws
To prevent that. Yeah, it's kind of
yeah,
hard to prevent ego. You can't really make a law
yeah,
about ego. I don't know that that's possible. You can just
yeah.
have things in place for people to be able to remove that ego. If
A psychological test maybe before you can get into, before you can get into
Are we gatekeeping
be a
now?
senator, or a House of Representatives, or anything in the three federal branches of government, I
We
guess.
just, I mean, you could just have people draw clocks. If they can draw a clock, then they're good. Does
Yeah,
that
let's
work?
roll with that. Yeah.
Okay, so the last part in the conservative constitution is each house of Congress shall have power to call for papers and testimony from executive branch officers relevant to the execution to their execution of statutory law, subject to claims of executive privilege by the president, which claims of privilege may be overridden by the votes of 3/5 of the House issuing the call. All claims of privilege and all decisions to override a claim of privilege shall be accompanied by a written statement of reason. I I don't know that I kind of understand what they're talking about.
They want to be able to, if they create a law, and then the executive branch creates it, or and creates an agency out of it, and then or a part of the executive branch to manage said law. I think they want the ability to be able to say, hey, open your books, open everything. We want to see what y'all are up to. That's the way that I read
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And yeah, I am too. Especially when you watch some of these congressional hearings, and you watch the way that some of these agencies and some of these people dodge questions, uh, and try to obfuscate what it is that they're doing. And I get it, dude. When you're talking about intelligence agencies and law enforcement and things like that, there is a level of secrecy that may or may not be needed in there. I but there's secret sessions, and that all those people have security clearances and all that stuff. All that stuff can be vetted. They should at least have an avenue to be like, hey, what the is going on here? And that person, that director of whatever agency, shouldn't just be able to claim national security, or that it's work product within the agency that they don't have to share.
So so I was reading what they have a little paragraph here about what they're talking about. And it is to an extent what you were saying. It also provides so right now there is nothing in the Constitution that puts any type of that gives Congress any power to do what that what that statement is doing. But it also, there's nothing to limit them from doing this. And this is interesting, but it also provides Congress has the power to call for papers and testimony from executive branch, da 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 da, all of that, and that all claims of privilege and all decisions to override a claim of privilege shall be accompanied by a written statement of reasons. The current Constitution does not provide for legislative subpoenas and oversight, but Congress has assumed such power anyways. Because it is not rooted in any text, the power is undefined and unlimited. The new provision in the proposed Constitution gives a firm constitutional basis for congressional oversight, but also limits it specifically to matters relevant to the execution of law on the part of executive officers. A modern day House Un American Activities Committee would no longer have the power to haul private citizens before a public inquisition and demand answers to questions. It also provides a mechanism for resolving claims of executive privilege by bipartisan vote in Congress. So I think I understand what they're, there's right now Congress is supposed to have, you have the Congressional Oversight Committee or whatever it is, right? That is currently there, that we currently use. They don't have anything in the Constitution saying they can or cannot do it. Again, this is one of those things that was kind of drawn, like the president being able to create departments, right? Like,
Yeah.
to be able to execute certain laws. So they create a department to oversee, and essentially all of that. If you want to call it bloat or you want to call it whatever, these organizations that have grown in order to be able to enact laws that Congress has passed. This gives the ability of Congress to have oversight into those executives on matters relevant to the execution of law, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's essentially what the executive branch should be doing, is executing law. So it would be over
Right.
anything that they do. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that either. I don't see an issue with, essentially you're putting in the congressional oversight information into the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, you're turning it from an implicit and an implied power to an explicit one.
Correct.
And I think there's something to be said for that. And especially when they talk about the ability of Congress to haul in private citizens and demand answers
Yeah.
as to what they're doing. Although I'm not against that in certain situations,
Yeah.
because there is something to be said for mega corporations and conglomerates and the power that they have and that they wield, and how they wield that against the American people and the world for that matter.
Yeah.
So them not being able to do that, I wonder if that needs to be more well defined.
Well, this doesn't have information. It doesn't say that they can't.
Okay.
Each House of Congress shall have power to call for papers and testimony from executive branch officers relevant to their execution of statutory law,
Right.
subject to
But
claims of executive privilege by the president, which claims of privilege may be overwritten by 3/4 of the House issuing the
but
call.
but private companies are not included in that.
They're not included, and they're not unincluded. Does that
Good
make
point.
sense? It
Yes, it
just
does.
says it has the power to call people from the executive branch. It doesn't say they can't call anyone else. It just explicitly gives them the ability to call executive branch officers. So
Fair enough.
I don't know that it's, and this may be one of those things where we look at the wording and we're like, we need to do something about
Yeah.
this. All right, so that's a conservative constitution. That is what they had for the bill making section. I'm interested to see what the libertarian constitution has. Like when you're talking about libertarian, you think, the freedom, right? Freedom of the people to do whatever they want. So I'm interested to see what they say. So what they have, I'll make this a little bigger so people can. all bills for raising revenue, tax, or by other means shall originate in the House of Representatives. Okay, same. But the Senate may propose or concur with incidental amendments as on other bills. Okay, so that's the same. The first two lines are the same. Okay, so this is where it gets spicy. This rule shall apply regardless of whether such revenue is proposed to be placed in any sequestered fund, nor may the Senate originate a bill for raising revenue by means of any amendment to a bill initiated by the House. Okay. So this essentially it should apply. So the Senate doesn't have the ability to put stuff in there if revenue is proposed to be placed in any sequestered fund. I'm guessing that the Senate could add things that then puts money in a special place. Nor may
Yeah, I'm
this.
wondering if that has anything to do with the idea that some of these larger government bureaucracies have their own revenue generating methods.
Yeah, that's possible. Nor may the Senate originate a bill for raising revenue by means of any amendment to a bill initiated by the House. I think that just keeps it in the House. So it says the Senate can still propose or concur with incidental amendments on other bills, but they can't originate. Here, let's. This one's always fun because they actually have decent. They have an explanation of each section. We strengthen the origination clause such that all revenue-raising bills really do have to originate in the House. Today, the
We
Senate
need it.
often invades the constitutional rule by amending an unrelated House bill and replacing it with a tax. Many state constitutions prohibit this shell game by requiring that amendments must be germane or incidental. So we adopted that rule. We also added a line item. Oh, we haven't gotten that far, but we also added a line item veto such that the president can remove items or appropriations without having to veto the entire bill, subject to the same veto override provision we already have for full bills. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so what they're saying is it has to actually originate in the House, no matter what. The Senate can't just tuck something in there and then, oh well, we're going to put this here, we're going to put that there. It's not a revenue generating bill. This is whatever. So I like the strengthening of that. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and Senate shall, before it became law, be presented to the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it. But if not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it should have originated. Who shall enter the objections at large on there? I think this is all the same. Yeah. Okay. So this main paragraph of how of how a bill becomes a law is the same.
Yeah.
So this is the additional. The president may disapprove any appropriation or item in any bill that he has otherwise signed. In such case, he shall, in signing the bill, designate the appropriations or items disapproved, shall return a copy of such appropriations with his objections to the House in which the bill originated. And the same proceeding shall then be had as in case of the entire bills disapproved by the president. I mean, right now, he has to send it back with the reasons why he vetoed it. So wouldn't this be the same thing? Because it's not passing. He can't line item veto things and then pass them.
Yeah.
It has to
Right.
be sent back.
Yeah, I don't see how it's much different because I mean that's basically what he's saying anyways is like, hey, I won't as long as this language is not in here, I won't sign this bill. I mean, I guess line item vetoing it and send it back. I don't know, maybe that streamlines the process and like, hey, get rid of this and then I'll sign it.
Wait a second. No, 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 no. If I'm reading this right, he can take and he can approve a bill
With a line item veto?
and veto the line items, and the line items get sent back.
And then the rest of the bill gets approved.
The rest of the bill will get essentially gets, yeah.
That seems kind of dangerous to me.
I mean, so he can allow only certain things to go through. Yeah,
And
President.
so like a line item veto, does he have to veto an entire line, or can he cross out a sentence? Like
It's in signing. Okay, in such case, he shall, in signing the bill, designate the appropriations or items disproved, and shall return a copy of such appropriations with his objections to the House in which the bill originated. The same proceeding shall then be had as in case of entire bills disproved by the president. So essentially, I wonder. It doesn't say anything here if the bill has if the bill has to wait for those particular line items. So yeah, rather than vetoing the entire bill and having to send the entire bill back, you say, okay, these five items, these five line items, I don't approve of. So send these five back and say, hey, these don't work. Figure out what you're doing on these five items. Everything else is fine, but these five items are no bueno. And
yeah.
then you go back to the House to vote on those five, whatever House it originated from. Those five line items go back to be gone through like a regular bill. I mean, it gives the ability to the president to take some of the pork stuff off, like, oh, we're passing this bill for, I don't know, we're enacting something that has to do with, let's just do this, AI. But I don't like your line item about giving $30,000 to this
To some company out in
bovine
some
fund,
state somewhere.
some
Yeah.
bovine fund out in Iowa for AI research for their for the pleasure of the cows. I like all the other stuff. I just don't want the cow AI. Doesn't work for me. I'm not giving $30 million to them. So send that one line item back, and have them approve or disapprove that line item. But the rest of it's good. I don't know. I don't know if I like that or not. Because would you have to wait for those line items to come through again before the bill is? It doesn't say in here.
Or would you approve the bill as is, and then if they then passed it by 2/3, then the rest of it would get enacted after the 2/3 vote?
Oh, well, you're talking about yeah. If you send it back and they in the Senate and the House and the Senate did the 2/3 vote and passed those specific line items,
Yeah.
which I think if you're talking about the bill overall, what it does is it takes away some of the bargaining power of some of the states. Like, hey, I'll vote yes on this bill if you include this $100 million for my state for this.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, if you did it that way. Now, if it was a line item veto and then you send it back and the bill does not get approved, then and then you have to decide on those line items or try to get a 2/3 vote.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Then
but it's one of those things to where, like, if you have to look at it from that perspective, well, then it passed because the person from Iowa signed off on it because of that line item. But now the president gets to go back and say, nope, not doing Iowa. We're not doing this Florida thing. We're not doing this California thing. And we're not doing this New York thing. The rest of the bill's good. We'll send those five things back.
or
And
or they
and
line
then
or they line item every single inclusion for one party's states or the others.
that's what, well, no, that's what I'm saying. So it
Yeah.
sends those five back. It says everything else in the bill is good except for those compromises that you put in so that you could get
Yeah.
everybody on board. Now you can vote on those on their own. So now you can vote on whether or not California gets their, $100 million. Tennessee gets their 150. Texas gets their, 100 and whatever, and then all of a sudden you have 5 or 6 states that are like, well, the other 50, the
Well,
other 40 states aren't going to approve crap. They're going to be like, no, no, no.
yeah. Well, and not only that, it's like it. Then nobody's going to want to negotiate in the
Correct.
legislative branches,
Correct.
and,
Because
and that nobody's going to want to come across the aisle. Nobody's going to want to.
no, you have to you essentially
I mean,
create the ability to give the president more power over the individual people, because you have to stay on the president's good side. You got to stay on his, like, hey, you remember when you didn't come up and shake my hand at this thing? Guess what? Your item on this bill, yeah, we're just going to get rid of that, and then we're going to have the whole House and Senate vote on just your one line item. And of course, they're going to say no. Like,
yeah.
who's gonna pass something just for somebody else's state? It's not going to happen.
But then if the entire bill gets squashed because of that, I mean,
Well, no,
does
that's
that
the way
kind
it
of
is now. The president only has the
yeah.
ability to say, "Here's the whole bill back. This is what I object to. Fix it." That's the way it is now. What this is saying is he can disapprove any appropriation or item in any bill that he has otherwise signed. In such case, he shall, in signing the bill, designate the appropriations or items disapproved, and shall return a copy of them with his objections to the House in which the bill originated, and the same proceedings shall be had in the case of an entire bill's disapproved by the president
But
with
then they're
those
only voting
items.
on the line items, not
Correct.
the
Not on
not
the
the
whole
entire
bill,
bill.
which
And
gives
then
no reason for anybody to vote for those specific line items.
unless the like I said, unless the whole bill gets squashed, which
Well,
I don't really think that they
that's what it originally
say.
is. Correct. No, 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 no. Originally, that's what it is. You have to
Yeah.
send the whole bill back, and you have to give your grievances here after such. Where is it? Do do do. Who shall enter? Here it is. If he approves, he sign it. But if he shall not, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that house in which it has originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal. See what you're asking for by adding, giving the president the ability to line item veto and send just those line items back for approval. It gives him extraordinary power. Like the whole bill, I can see the whole bill,
Yeah.
but not line items. I don't know that line item veto from the president, and then people sending those vetoes or that vetoed line items back to the House or the Senate. I don't know that that'll work. People are going to take advantage. They'll take a massive advantage of that
Yeah.
ability. So I don't like that at all. It's interesting that the libertarian put that their bill, that their constitution would have the ability for one person. I mean, I understand what they're saying. It'd be great for the president to say, no, you can't spend $500 million on, 2 new airplanes. Sorry, but that's not
Yeah.
going to fly in this bill, and we're gonna go back. But he can do that now. It just the whole bill has to go back and has to be taken care of and pass through everything again before it goes up to him. I think that's reasonable. I don't think it's smart to give him that power.
Yeah, the wording on this is really clunky too. I feel
Yeah,
like because it's I've read this like 3 times and I still can't discern if the bill if the line item veto bill is then approved and goes into law,
correct.
and then only the disapproved portions go back to the Senate or the House.
Well, I mean, the only other way that it could happen is if the whole bill went back, and that's already covered in the one above it. Like the line item
Yeah.
veto means nothing at that point.
Yeah,
If
so I guess it's implied then that
that part
the
passes.
bill is approved with the line item vetoes. Yeah, I don't, and if that's the case, I don't think that's a good idea at
No,
all.
no.
Like, it it completely undermines the spirit of negotiation and compromise that
Correct.
legislative bodies are supposed to be all about.
Yep.
What, whether you like it or not, or for better or for worse. I mean, I understand the idea of it, and looking at it and be like, okay, does this state really need $500 million for this, or whatever amount of money that you want to set against it? And I get one, hey, no, we're going to get rid of this, and yeah, it would streamline the process and it would make it easier. But then, like, and I believe that the House of Representatives and the Senate already have enough problems with this as far as negotiating and compromising and coming together and trying to find solutions, like probably more so than, at least in the last 100 years, I would guess, that it's just, it's gonna bring Congress to a screeching halt as far as what gets
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, because well, if you're vetoing my one line item, like
Yeah.
it does take away the power of negotiation from the Senate and the House. Oh,
Yeah.
you want my approval on this? Well, you're gonna need to do
Yeah,
whatever
you're
you
going
to
to need
work
to
something out.
sweeten the pot for my constituency.
Exactly.
Like, and I get that. Like, and I feel like that's how it should be. I mean, that's it's kind of how business is done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
and
don't like that line at all.
yeah, same.
All right. So we like the origination clause to kind of get rid of some of the possibility of pork. We did not like the presidential line item veto. Every order, resolution, or to vote with the concurrence of the House as it may be necessary shall be presented. Okay, this is the same. Okay, so that's the same that's already in there. So they added the two. They added the two things. A little bit more of a harsher origination clause that we like. Did not like the other one. All right, progressive. Are we ready for this one? This is this is the funniest.
Let's
To be honest,
go.
going through all of this stuff, when you're talking about the conservative and the libertarian and the progressive constitution that was made here, the thing that I find the most humorous, the most changes seem to be made by the conservative constitution, has the most changes to the constitution from what I've seen so far. The libertarian is kind of like in the middle. They change some things, but not a lot. And then the progressive, it's very interesting that there's a lot of stuff they didn't change. A lot of stuff they just left the same, like the little words here and there. But it's very it's very interesting that the progressive Constitution doesn't have much change to it.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
okay, progressive legislature, it's the same. All the first paragraph's the same. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. So that there's no change there. Let's see. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President. President approves, he shall sign. But if not, the President returns it with any objection to the House. Any objections to that House in which shall have originated shall enter the objections at large in their journal. I'm trying to see if there's something here that I'm missing. 2/3. Let's see. The other House which shall likely shall become law. Cases of votes. I don't think there's anything new.
Doesn't seem like it. I was reading through it at the same time you were. I mean,
I don't see anything new in that paragraph. All right. So let's do this second one. Every order, resolution, or verdict. President of the United States before. I don't see any changes at all. I don't think the progressive. Sorry, excuse me. I don't think that the progressive Constitution changed the bill thing at all. Let's see. updating established real fundamental rights. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't think they changed it at all. I don't see anything in here that says that they changed it.
Mm-mm.
They're changing other stuff, and that's funny. So the progressive constitution is we're okay with the way things are done now. We don't need to change it.
Yeah, and I think I kind of agree with them to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean when you're looking at what the changes like, you have one that adds, if we look at what we liked out of the other ones, the ability for Congress to say, hey, the rule or regulation you put in place doesn't honor the law that we passed. It's not in the spirit of the law that we passed, essentially,
Yeah.
and gives them the ability to say you can't do that. Uh, the power to, it puts it in the Constitution, the ability for Congress to have papers and testimony from the executive branch, and any claims of privilege by the president can be overridden by 3/5 of the House issuing the call. I mean, I don't see. I can see where that's a little bit like they already do it. It doesn't. The president can say things are privileged right now. I don't know that there's any recourse that Congress has in order to say, hey, we don't care if it's privilege. You need to tell us what's going on. I mean, that might be good. And then kind of narrowing down the origination clause. Other than that, I don't know that there needs to be much change to. I mean, if we're talking about putting guardrails on the way bills are created, I mean, the only, like, I know that we talked about way back in like one of the first sections, creating a new branch, not a new branch, but a new house of business.
Yeah. And there's lots of things to figure out inside of that. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, how would it work with a tricameral? And what do they have the power to do? Do they have the power to veto? Do they have, does it have to be approved by all three houses? Like, how much representation are we going to give businesses? But then also it gets rid of, like, you take away lobbying from the House and the Senate, which I agree with, because the House is supposed to represent the people, not businesses. And the Senate's supposed to represent the states, not businesses. So if we take and let them lobby all they want for a third body, which gives you two-thirds capability, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. We have to figure that out. But from what we have here, can you see or think of anything else from the bill writing or the lawmaking process?
Nothing specifically. Like, we keep breaking this apart as the way it was written. And I always wonder when we're doing this and we're going through a section of, like, is there a better way to do this? Is there
Yeah.
is there a way to just break the whole thing apart and find a new method, find a whole new algorithm,
From
so to
from the
speak.
from the bottom up. Like the
Yeah.
whole, like, just tear it all down and recreate from scratch.
Yeah. But the amount of thought and energy that would be required for something that has worked, I would say, fairly well for as long as it has, and for us to maintain, and the people to remain uh, in as good a spot as they have for the last 250 years. And you can argue about
Yep.
what that is, and obviously it's been better for some people than others, and there have been a lot of mistakes inside of that. But is there something better?
Well,
I like
I mean, we could get a bunch of people together for, let's see, May 25th to September 17th. So May, June, July, August. For 4 months, we could get how many people? I think that there wasn't there like 30 people around about.
Oh, you're talking about the Constitutional Convention?
Yeah, the original one where they created all this.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
I don't know. Like, and then the other thing I think is looking at this, is this really something that we should scrap? I mean, a lot of people 240 years ago spent a lot of time on this,
4 months,
and
relatively.
and a lot of thought, and like I said, it has worked very well.
30. Okay, wait a second. So, so there was a selection of a presiding officer, which unanimously electing George, Mr. Washington, as the president.
What would that have been like, man? To unanimously, like, think about that.
Well,
Like
I mean, he did. He
the
did just lead the Continental Army to victory, and there was talks of making him the quote unquote king.
king.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like the fact that you have someone that is charismatic enough, is intelligent, like charismatic to grab the attention of the people, intelligent enough to be able to have like to have the conversations with the people that you're around, the lawyers, the doctors, the like these people that have put so much time and effort into things, to hold conversations with them about stuff intellectually, and also have the military prowess from that perspective, to have all of the, I mean the charismatic stuff kind of works into the military stuff as well,
Yeah. Agreed.
but to unanimously they that's how much he was revered at that time. That's crazy talk.
Well, and I think the part that always gets me with that too is, and what they talk about in the history books is that he didn't want it.
Correct.
Like that was the other thing. And I like and for me in my head, those are the people that you want in those
Correct.
positions.
And
The
that's why they
people that
wanted
are
to put him
looking at,
there. That's why they put him
yeah,
there. It's
yeah. Everything about him said like, I don't want to do this, but
that's the
but I
best
but
part.
yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like, man, do I really have to go? Man, I don't want to go there. They're just going to tell me I got to do stuff. God, oh,
Yeah.
man, I really
Right.
don't want to go. And then you get there and they're like, hey, yeah, you're going to do this. And it's like, man, I don't want to do this crap.
Like,
Why are you?
I just want to go back to I just want to go back to my vineyard on a like grow some grapes.
Yeah,
Like
man, come on. Like,
I already did
geez.
all this other bullshit for y'all.
Yeah, can't
Like
you all
I'm
do
out.
this? Why
Like
do I got to do this?
yeah.
It's like, come on. Jeez. But I mean, you got that guy who's like, he's standing back like, no, 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 no. Don't pick me. Don't pick me. Don't pick me.
Yeah, right.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
God. God.
Like trying to make himself all small, like get behind the tall person, you know.
Hey,
Like,
okay, who votes for George? Okay, George, where are you? George, where?
he's like walking out the door. Like,
It's like, no, I'm good, man. I'm
like
not,
nah,
I'm
man.
good.
Like
I don't want to do this crap. Oh, jeez. I'm tired. Man, you know how hard it is to row across the Delaware, man. That was a long trip.
he wasn't rowing, man. He was standing on
I-
the edge of the boat, like
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't. It's a fake painting, but yeah. But I'm saying, just like, man, it was cold. We were hungry.
yeah.
We didn't want to be. And now you want me to do this? Oh, hell. No. But anyways, so he was the president. Let's see the delegates. So there were 30 to 40 delegates were present on most days during the convention. Each state had its own quorum requirements. They divided evenly on a motion. The state did not cast a vote. Like, wow, committee rules were adopted. Rules drafted by a committee whose members were George Wythe, Chairman Charles Pinckney, and Alexander Hamilton. He was he was a judge. One of the founding, yep, George Wythe, he was a judge. Pinckney was a planner, a politician, and a governor of South Carolina. And of course, Hamilton, military officer, statesman, founding father, served as a secretary and treasurer under George Washington. I mean, like you got some pretty high up people, but you also have like a lot of these people were very enlightened. Like they weren't. There wasn't a lot of ego, I want to say. There
Yeah.
was to an extent, because you obviously had people that were like, but they were trying to come to a compromise. Like they were thinking, okay, what's if we're going to have to, and I think that this is where we're lost now in our ability to compromise. They knew that if they didn't come together, they weren't all going to survive. If one of them was left out, like the I think the fear of, well, cool, well, if you don't want to be part of this, then we'll do 12 states. Like, screw you, and
Yeah.
then Britain will come and take care of you, and then we'll, or even if you have the 12 states that go and take over the one, like, I think that there was a lot of, hey, we gotta figure this out. Like, we all have to
Yeah.
compromise. We have to come to some sort of togetherness to a certain extent, and we got to work through this. So I think that that was a big part of it. Was
Oh, it
their
for
other
sure was
choice?
definitely a fear
Yeah,
of what was going to happen
if they
if they
didn't.
didn't band
Yeah,
together, and so that might have had a lot to do with the necessity of forcing the compromise. And I was kind of thinking of that in today's climate and today's landscape, where it's there doesn't seem to be that necessity where people just want to stand on their they want to stand on their ideology, and they want to sit on their soapbox and tell everybody else what they're doing wrong and that their way's right, and that without realizing that like the by doing that, the people that you're hurting, and by the unwillingness to compromise, the unwillingness to come together, and how much that is hurting so many people. Because and then at the end of the day, you don't have to see those people. You don't have to talk to them and tell them like why you're being an asshole. You know,
yeah,
so and so maybe there's a lack of accountability in there as well, that needs to be baked in.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but like, dude, the idea that even because you can get 10 people into a room, and they can't decide or agree upon what they want for dinner, and the idea that you can get 40
Third,
incredibly intelligent and
yep,
educated and enlightened people together, and every single one of them is like, yeah, dude, that's who I want to be in charge of me.
that's crazy.
Like, that's insane.
That
And
is.
like to 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 have a moment like that is like to and if I could see something like that in my lifetime, I like, what a great time to be alive that would be.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's interesting that how much he was revered as a statesman, and I think that a big part of it was the fact that he didn't want it. I think that that was a key thing of, he was like, we're not doing
Yeah,
this.
and
Like, I'm not going to do
yeah,
this.
and I think he knew I'm guessing he probably knew in his heart. He's like, yeah, I can do this, but
Yeah,
I don't want to. Like,
yeah,
and almost like, and everything that he did and everything that he said while he was in power was like, I don't I don't think anybody should have this kind of power.
yep. Oh yeah. So I mean, and
And
that's
in my mind, those are the people that you want in charge, that are always asking themselves, am I abusing this? Am I like
this is
am I
too
doing the
much.
right
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Where it weighs heavy on you every single day.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's interesting when you look at that, and how much has changed as we've gone along. It's yeah, it's crazy. Back to what we were saying about the bill, the creation, like what we were talking to, like you were saying, we have this, we have what we have and what we're looking at, and trying to modify and change and sort of build the guardrails around the Constitution that we currently have,
Yeah. Based on mistakes
based on
and things that have
yeah,
happened in the past.
experience.
And
Yes,
I think that's the right approach. I mean,
yeah,
unless somebody has another argument or a different way of looking at it, to tear the whole thing, to tear the whole bill process down, and try to do something else, like that you could clearly see, that there's going to be more good in. I think this is this
Yeah,
is the way to go.
yeah. I don't know that there is like the only thing, like I said, is if we do the third house for a business,
Yeah,
if we
but then that would
take
just be it would just be an integration of into the existing system. It wouldn't be a
to
complete
an extent,
rewrite.
it would be how much power do you want to give to
Yeah,
that third branch? Like if you have if you have the two houses, the people in the states, and they want to raise business tax, and then you have the entire you know commerce house, and they say
yeah.
like, well, what do you do then? Like, we're raising the business tax from 20% to 23%, and they're like, no. Like,
Yeah,
is
it's a good question.
do you have the ability to override them with
Right.
2/3 and 2/3, or of the other two houses, or or if you have the ability, do you have the two house rule to where if you have two houses that approve of something at this of an overwhelming majority, do you have the ability, is it going to hinder more than it's going to make better? Is the problem. But I think the biggest thing, and one of the things that everybody talks about, is getting the money out of politics, is getting the
Yeah.
lobbying, the businesses that are, they the people don't have the ability to put the money forth to be able to pay these politicians what they're making off of these
Yeah.
companies that are doing for them.
Well, it's like, and then if you go back to the whole corporations are people too kind of a
Yep.
thing. Well, okay. Other than a few people in this world, there are no there's no one person that garners the amount of wealth and resources which equate to power
Yeah.
uh, in this world than these corporations, and they are
Correct.
negotiating. And according to law, they are negotiating as a person. How is
Yep.
that fair that they're able to negotiate that at that level, and then these other 400 or 340 million Americans are not able
Exactly.
to negotiate to negotiate with that kind of power.
Exactly.
And
So if you take it, so the whole thing was giving the representation, taking the lobbying out of the House, out of the Senate, to where you give the House of Commerce, and you make that third branch, or not branch,
right,
third. I mean, we have three branches. We have the executive, judiciary, and legislative. So instead of doing a bicameral, you do a tricameral, and you have the three houses in the legislative branch, and you have the commerce, you have the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the House of Commerce, and you give businesses representation, and you don't allow any representatives from the House and the Senate to take, there's no lobbying in those houses. Sorry, there's no taking any type of monies, gifts, or emoluments from any business whatsoever. And then you have the, like, what is going to stop, how are we going to prevent businesses from then still buying? Like, if two houses have the ability to override a third, if you give them, hey, if you have 3/5 or 2/3 or whatever it is of both houses, 2/3 seems to be the big thing. If you have 2/3 of two houses, you can override the third house.
yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that. Although talking about this makes me wonder if we're really headed down the correct road of, do you create a third house of commerce,
For
or
businesses,
or
yeah.
do you spend or do you spend the time and energy to completely remove
Corporations from.
the lobbying and the well, and maybe not remove, but make it some sort of equal playing field where
Which, I mean,
corporations can't start super PACs and donate hundreds of millions of dollars to a campaign.
yeah,
You
but
know,
I mean, you're talking the individual. You have people now that have the ability to donate hundreds of millions of dollars. One person. to
Yeah.
donate hundreds of $1 million or millions of dollars to a particular campaign. But not even from that perspective. I mean, you look at the amount of representatives that have either come into or come out of, a government position with a better position at a company, or even family and friends. You get a sitting senator that, some company wants you to vote for their whatever, to back their thing. Hey, we can appoint your brother-in-law or your family member to our whatever and give them a salary of $150,000 a year,
Yeah.
as long as we can get your vote. And or I mean, you could even do 300,000. I mean, that's chunk change for them. 300 grand
Right.
over a year. I mean, that's nothing for a lot of these big organizations to put one person in to buy a vote that's going to make them millions of dollars or save them millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Or even the ability, hey, you've been really good to us. You should come work for us whenever you're done, whatever, or you have a job with us if you get this bill passed or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a huge problem. And it probably the biggest problem that we have in politics today. And I
but how do you
think
stop it?
I,
How do you stop some corporation from saying, "Hey, we're going to give your son a VP position at our company as long as you make sure that we're taken care of."
right. And by the way, he only works like 4 hours a
Whatever,
month,
doesn't matter. He's going to make this
yeah,
amount of money, and he's going to be taken care of as long as you take care of us.
yeah,
And when you don't vote the way that we want you to vote, for some reason he might just happen to lose his job.
yeah. I,
I mean, how do
I
you?
don't know, man. Like, and I don't know, it's something that I think about often. And I think maybe we do a whole episode on that. And, I mean, not right at this moment or this time,
Yeah. Well, I mean, this
but
is part of the bill making, like the law making process. Like, we were
yeah,
talking about creating a third branch, or I keep saying third branch, a third house, for business to get the money out of the House and the Senate. But what's the stop? Like, how are you going to prevent? Like, how are you going to find out? Are you going to keep track of every senator's family, of everybody in the senator's family, if they get a job, trying to find out, okay, well, who's connected to what? How did they get this job? Like that's a lot of resources for trying to.
you could do it programmatically. I mean, but there's ways to get around it. I
That's
mean,
the thing.
you could monitor every,
I mean, dude, you got insider
down to their
trading, bro.
second or third cousin. You could monitor their bank accounts. You could do all of that. But then you run into privacy issues, and it's like they didn't agree to get elected by the people, and so
Correct.
like why should they have to
Yep.
consent to that in order to in order for that and you're this person's like second cousin,
Yep.
you know, and it's like I was like, well, and you're looking at, well, what the fuck did I do to deserve this,
Yeah.
you know?
And you got insider trading going on. So I mean,
Yeah,
and how you're not going to be able to stop that. Somebody gets a tip from, hey, go ahead and move this, sell this, going. I mean, how are
yeah.
you going to
Move,
stop
move
that?
this stock over here,
Hmm.
put like, buy it today, sell it tomorrow at this time, you know? Yeah.
I mean, it goes on. It happens. And how do you, like, what law or what regulation, what guardrails do you put in place to prevent that stuff from happening? Like, to keep that type of corruption out of you know government.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this goes back in my head now. This is going back to civic virtue.
Correct.
Like you expect people to act in good faith and that they are taking this job not because they want to enrich themselves, but because they have ideas or they have a plan to make things better for the people that they represent. And but I don't know how you bring that back to, or if it ever existed. You know, you're asking people to, I think you're asking most people to deny their own personal nature. And I don't know, man. Maybe like I always I wonder, you know, and we haven't really talked about this where you know we talk about universal basic income or basic services and things like that. And then if you take care of those things for people and you make sure that that their basic needs are taken care of, would they change their viewpoint? Would they change their
Yeah.
idea of what it means to be human, and human nature itself? And we I don't think we know the answer to that. Like I would love to run some kind of test bed or some kind of you know biodome situation and just see how you know if all that's taken care of, if people would just come together on their own and they would just be more rather than individualistic and work towards the collective good.
I mean, I think
I
you're
don't
gonna.
know.
I think you're gonna have I think you would have a majority of people that would do that, but you're always going to have you're always going to have that group of people that want more. That, oh well, how can I get more? Like, this isn't enough for me. I want more than what other people have. I want more than what I have. Like, I deserve more because of this or that. Like,
Because I'm smarter, because I'm bigger, because I'm stronger, because you know
whatever.
I can shuck 10 times as much corn as the other person.
Exactly. So why am I not making more money if I can do more than this other person?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. No, it's yeah. Well, and your physical, okay, yeah, but your physical capabilities, yeah, you can shuck 10, you know, you can shuck 10 and this person can shuck 8, but what about the guy that's running the tractor that's shucking hundreds?
Yeah. Or the guy that invented the tractor.
Yeah. Where does
Yeah.
and that's where you get, how do you quantify those, how do you quantify those things for those people? Like, it's,
Yeah.
you're always going to have someone that is going to be disenfranchised at some point. Like, you know, their art isn't good enough, so I should just go into politics. Or their, no, you didn't did you get that? No.
Me?
Yeah, you didn't get that.
No, I got it.
You didn't.
Where are you looking right now? Like, what are you?
No, you didn't get the comment. Okay, never mind.
Oh no.
I said that their art isn't good enough, so they should go into politics.
Okay. Now I got it.
God, it's all right. You weren't paying attention. It's fine. Man, I get the good ones in
I'm
there.
sorry,
And
man.
nothing.
Like,
I get
is there
nothing.
some other way that you'd like me to validate you?
We're just gonna end the stream. You know, you obviously don't appreciate me, and I should be. You know, I should be the one that is.
Yeah.
You know, getting more.
You're the guy shucking 10 pieces of corn a
Yes,
minute.
and you're over
Yeah.
there. You're over there going, what's corn? Corn? What's that?
Huh? I don't get it.
What do you mean? Why are we out? It's hot. Why is it so hot? Don't you have hats or something? Like, block that. Hey, I'm going to invent a hat, and then I'll be better than everybody. No, but
Nailed it.
exactly. No, but I don't know that you're ever going to get away from that to an extent. You're always going to have some people that are like that. I mean, you for the longest time, you know, people didn't think multiple personality disorder, dissociative disorder, whatever, from a from a psychiatric standpoint. Oh, it doesn't exist. There's people out there that have it. Yeah, maybe it's only 0.0000001% of the population, but there's people that have it.
Yeah.
So, to say that here we go. I'm going to try it. To say that there's not going to be some art student that gets disenfranchised from being an art student and takes up politics because somebody with a certain hair color, made fun of him. All Jews must die. Like that's what you're, and that's one of the things that is difficult from that standpoint. Is what is it? The villain backstory, right? Like,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, what's the
Well,
saying? Who peed in your Cheerios today?
yeah.
You
No,
know?
no. Who shat in your cereal?
Yeah, it's
Um.
one of those types of things. Like, how do you, no matter what
Well,
you do, you're going to get
and
disenfranchised.
yeah, and the human mind is a fascinating thing in that way that the things people can use to justify to treat each other poorly and horribly,
Yeah.
and justify their own behavior,
Oh yeah.
because of that is, it definitely cannot, it should not be discounted, or ignored. That's for sure. I I just don't know, like,
How do you keep it out of politics?
yeah,
Like you look at you look around the world and you have places where there are people in power that are keeping their ability they're keeping their place in power, and nobody is doing anything about it. You take a country that has the largest population of people and is probably one of the most subjugated groups of people, most like underheeled people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So we should just do it like them.
I'm
That's what we should do.
makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Screw it.
we figured it out.
Screw it all.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what we'll do.
I, man, I think that there, if you keep going down this road though, it's like, how many guardrails do you put in place?
Exactly.
How many bug fixes do you have to work through? And then when you fix that bug, it creates a whole other one, and a different loophole. And I like I in my head, I keep going back to the idea that if you provide a certain level for people, will that it will hopefully give them the ability and the mental capacity, and to act more in service of, not just themselves and whatever capacity that they have for themselves. But you, again, to your argument, you're always going to have those outliers.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless you start breeding it out of human nature, like, and they completely map the human genome, and where that idea, or where that sense of always wanting more comes from.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no amount of laws or guardrails that you're going to put it again in place against those people, other than the the human capacity to see right from wrong, to see, mistreatment of others, and stand up against it.
Yeah.
And there will, like, there will always be that. And it's not all of us that have that in them. It's not, and it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of bravery. But I think it's pitting one side of human nature, against each other. And for me, I just have to hope that, what I consider the best parts of us, and the best parts of human nature, that are gonna win out against,
The other parts.
the bad. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at. I mean, I don't know how many. There's a lot of fantasy civilizations in books and everything else, and if you don't, you can't have a good story without some strife. You know what I mean? Like, you're always going to have somebody doing something. Otherwise, you wouldn't read a book about people that never had anything happen to them and everything was perfect, and everything was boring, because everybody was happy all the time. So you take something where you take away scarcity. So you're talking something like a Star Trek, to where you have a replicator, you have the ability to pretty much get whatever you want, however you want, and
You can generate as much power as you need.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're still going to have those those people that aren't happy, and even with their medical advancements that cures most things, you're still going to have people that see other people as bad, and I don't know that you're going to get away from that. And trying to solve that from a law or regulation or a constitution or from, I don't know that you can. The only thing that you can do is, like you said, you take the people that are good and you try to give them the ability to stand up to the people that are bad in whatever means necessary, whether it's through voting or giving. There's always a big thing of, well, the majority and minority. The majority takes advantage of the minority, or it should be the job of the majority to protect the minority. Like there's how do you do that? How do you make sure that one person's ideologies don't overrule somebody else's? Like when your rights stop when they infringe on mine. Where is that line, and how do you make sure that line is kept? This is my piece of land. Why are you here digging on my piece of land? I'm going to kill you now. Okay, well, who was in the right, who was in the wrong? It's just a piece of land. The land doesn't care who's digging on it or who's whatever, but this was my property and you infringed on my right to have my property. So now you're dead. And I'm justified because, well, you should have known better. You get in a car accident, somebody jumps in front of your car and damages your car or whatever. Like, oh, well, I'm going to sue them, because they did damage to my car and it's my property, and it's my right to be compensated for my property because they jumped in front of it. Oh, well, they didn't jump in front of it. Somebody pushed them. Okay, well, then who's the responsible party? The party that pushed the other person? Or, well, what was it about? Then it goes to the whole thing of, okay, well, they were just joking around. So who's responsible? The person that's dead laying on the ground because they were in front of your car, or the person that, pushed that person? They just killed that person by accident. There wasn't any malicious intent. So, okay, now they got to pay for your car. They go to jail. They lose their life. What? It's one of those, how do you protect the people that are trying to do good and make sure that people are treated fairly? And what is fair? Like there's so much wrapped up in and everything, and then you're talking about, okay, well, now we're talking about an elected representation of the people. What people? How do you represent all of the people? How do you give fair and free representation to, you know, to the people that you're trying to represent, and give them the ability to voice their opinions and have ways to make sure people don't take it. This is the biggest part. How do you make sure people don't take advantage of it? That is the key. How are we preventing how are you preventing the use of the system against what it's intended for?
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part is whenever nobody follows if you have a person that was given power, that doesn't follow any of the rules that have been instated, it doesn't even matter what rules you have.
Yeah, it's too bad we don't have any examples of that going on right now that where we could look at that and say that that's happening.
No, I mean, the odds of that occurring, of somebody being, put into a place of power and then completely disregarding laws and precedents and any of that type of stuff. I mean, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine.
But how do
Yeah.
you prevent that person from gaining that much power, gaining that much capability? How do
Well,
you go ahead?
I was just gonna say, I I wonder sometimes, like, and I don't, I'm purposefully not following most of what's going on politically now, or at least
Yeah,
I'm trying to stay emotionally uninvolved.
yeah,
And because if I didn't, I would lose it.
yeah,
And so it's like, how did we get here? How are how are people this angry that they could look at that they could look at this person that they put in power and say say that this is a good idea. And I think there's a lot of different reasons and a lot of different things that you could look at, and a lot of mistakes that were
Oh,
made to
yeah.
get from point A to point B.
Well, some people made mistakes. Other people were getting there intentionally.
Yes, but the idea that a populace or even part of a populace could be this angry and think that this is the kind of person that I want representing me, and the ideas that he stands for are are something that I can get behind is just absolutely insane to me. But but we got here and we got people this angry, and and that easily galvanized one against the other, and it,
What can you
man, I
put in a document that prevents that? What ways can
don't
you?
be a dick. I
Don't
like
be.
I don't know, man. Like
Well, I
I don't
mean,
know if there's anything you can put in a document because, like, and let me tell you my own I'll even throw in my own personal experience. Like I didn't vote for I didn't vote for president in 2024. I looked at it and I was like, I don't I like there I want neither I want nothing to do with this. Like I want none of these people to be my president, for a host of different reasons. And you can and anybody can sit here and break that apart and tell me that I'm un-American or that I'm like not doing my civic duty and blah blah
you
blah.
voted.
And,
No, no, no.
yeah,
By not voting, by choosing not to vote, you voted.
yeah, and I voted for other stuff. I didn't put anything
Yeah,
down for as far as president goes.
yeah, exactly. You
They
left it up. No, no, no. It's so by essentially by non-voting, and I'm sure people will argue with me. You are voting for whoever the people want.
yeah,
Essentially, we have these options, and I don't think that one is better than any other. I don't think that there's any good options here. So I'm going to let the rest of the people make that choice for me. Now,
yeah,
now we could argue a few things because I mean you're in California. I'm pretty sure that California voted for Kamala. So
yeah.
from your standpoint, where you are in your state, you were okay with Kamala being president. You were okay with either of them being president because either of them is going to be a crap show. It doesn't
to,
matter.
to be to be honest with you, I didn't like the way I was looking at it is I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
don't know
Well,
what's going to
no,
happen in
it's
the
not.
yeah
You were
and
okay. You would be okay with Trump. You would be okay with Kamala. You would be
yeah
okay with I don't know if Stein ran or whatever. Whoever managed to win, you were like, I mean, let's pick one of the Stooges,
yeah
Larry, Curly, or Mo. Which one? And then you're going to come in and say, oh, hey, there's a fourth one. We're going to pick Shep. No, it, it doesn't matter which one we put in there. We're in for a ride.
yeah
So you decided, well, I can't vote for all three of them, so I'm not going to vote for any of them because that
right
is my vote. My vote is none of those. So whoever gets elected, I'm going, I'm going to have to live with. I'm going to take
yeah
the people's choice, and
yeah and
it's a vote. A non
yeah
not voting is a vote. It is a vote for essentially whoever wins.
yeah fair enough. My point inside of that is that when I was thinking about who I was going to vote for and I was looking at Trump and I looked at everything that happened back in 20 in his first tenure, and then I was looking forward and it's like, there's a lot of bad things going on right now, like in the current administration, and I I had some optimism around what like if he got voted in, what would be done. I mean, I know there were things being said, and I know you have opinions about that, about what was said, and it was like, okay, well, he's just blustering. He's just that's him. It's what he does. Like and
I think a lot
it
of
gets
people
people
felt that
ginned
way.
up.
I
Yeah,
think a lot
and
of
and
people
it, and
felt the
it
way you felt.
and it gets people ginned up, and then it gets people on his side. But he's not actually going to behave this way when when he gets put back into power. And man, I was wrong. Like in that thought process. I like that, and that's personally just how I feel about it. And and so it's. But then again, those were the only two real choices that there were, other than to not vote and let other people decide, and which is what I did, like you
Yep.
said. And it's like how, and so it's like, how did this person galvanize this many people, and to where, because
There's
he
that
went
much
through the
separation.
primaries, there were other people that were on the Republican side of things that I looked at, and I was like, I would much rather have them as president than this dude. And yeah, and then there was problems on the Democrat side too, about how how somebody got through, got to the nomination without a
There was no primary.
yeah, without a primary and all that stuff. And it's like, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I feel like we've been heading down this road for a long time. Like, as far as how we vote, how we do things, how, like, what choices, what curated choices were given as as who our new leaders are going to be. And I think there's a lot of apathy inside that for individuals, because they feel like there's not, their vote doesn't matter, or that it doesn't matter who they vote. It's just, it's the same they get the same results. It's a different person with the same results. And so it's like,
Yeah.
why do I care?
Exactly. No,
And
that is a lot of the apathy that
yeah,
very many people have right now. Doesn't matter who I
yeah,
vote for; it's going to be a crap show,
yeah,
and nothing's going to come of it. It's going to be the same
right.
stuff. Rich are going to get
And,
richer, the poor are going to get poorer, and nobody cares about little old me.
yeah, and what it should be is like, well, hey, like, I think this person's ideas are going to make things better for me, and the people around me in my community. But then this person over here, I think, is going to make them even better because of what he's talking about doing. Like, they could be, we could even be in a better situation in 2-4 years. Like, if he can enact the legislation and do the things that he or she wants to do. And but that is not what we're staring down the barrel of, and nor have we been for a long time.
Yeah.
And and it's and part of me wonders, okay, well, is this just what we deserve as the people, or is this the system that has just been thrust upon us because of years and years of these iterations that we've been doing, and people playing the political game and all the different things. And do you, like, and how do you even start to, like, wipe that slate clean? I,
Well,
I don't I don't know.
the thing is you're. I mean, to wipe the slate clean. I mean, you're looking at some sort of revolution at that point. If you're talking about
Right.
wiping it clean, but if you're talking
Which
about,
I am not advocating for at all. I will
yeah,
joke
no,
about that, but
yeah, no, that's
I will be
not.
the first one standing up and saying, like, we need to find a different way to do this.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I agree. I definitely don't want it to come to that, and it shouldn't. We should be able to resolve this, civically, or even civilly. The 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 thing you're going to run into, the biggest problem you have is you have a certain um, you have a certain group of people essentially that are mainly running everything now. So the only way that you're going to get that group of people out is to either force them out or make them go willingly. And and it's really funny. I saw a or somebody saying, what should we what was it, when a CEO like dies or resigns, what do we do with all of the senators they've bought, I believe. And it's like, bury them like they did in the Egyptian times, bury the
Yeah,
senators with the CEO or whatever.
yeah,
It's one of those things to where you have people or companies that have amassed so much power and or wealth and are gaming and taking advantage of the system to the detriment of other people, but they don't care. And it's one of those things, like if you look at history and you look at what has happened with whether it's the French Revolution or whether it's what happened in Russia or what happened in during feudalism time with the peasants revolting against kings, like however you want to look at that, look through whatever lens you want to, it all comes down to whenever the people eventually get tired of being taken advantage of to where they don't have food to eat, they don't have, they're not being taken care of. Eventually eventually they say, okay, we've had enough. Like y'all, like it's one of those things to where most people think that there should be people that are well to do or better off than them and whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, well they're them, that's fine as long as I got mine, right? As long as
Yeah.
I can, as long as I can feed myself and my family, I can have whatever it is I want to have, and I have the quote unquote opportunity to be able to get better, no matter how small that is or whether or not it's actually going to happen. As long as I have that carrot hanging in front of me and I'm not literally dying or starving for it, then I'm okay. Like I'm
Yeah.
doing all right. I don't need to resort to any type of like physical harm of someone else,
Yeah.
or
Any type of extreme action
yeah.
to invoke change.
And that's what you have with the majority of America for a long time. People have seen this stuff happening and they're like, "Oh god, this isn't good. Oh, this isn't good." And they put lines in the sand. Oh, this isn't good. Well, if it gets this worse, then we're gonna have to do something. Well, if it gets this worse, we're gonna have to do something. Like, and you see it slowly progress. Over the past 50, 60 years, 70 years, you see it slowly going one way, and it's happening very slowly. But the thing is your quote unquote middle class, your average people, they're still able to go do their work. Yeah, it sucks. Oh, I gotta work. They can still buy food. They can still afford cars. They can still go out and buy the new phone, and they can still do the. They still have their debt. They can still pay their bills. They can do all that. That's changed drastically in the past year. Like in the
Yeah.
past year, that's changed very drastically, and I think it's just people, for the people that are consolidating that power and putting that power together. It just doesn't. You would think that they would learn if you're not. It's just like with the whole AI thing. And if you take the AI people, if you take AI and replace the people with AI, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now you have all these AI people doing all the work. But if you're in any type of a retail business or any type of a service business, if the people don't have any money to buy your product, what does it matter if you got AI working there or not? If you don't have anybody that has any money to buy your stuff, if 1%
Yeah.
of the population has money to buy stuff, well, then that's what you're catering to. You're not catering to the rest of it. And you could make a lot more money if you just gave those other people, like if they got money and you could gain. But see, the thing is they've consolidated so much power.
Yeah.
Nothing costs them anything anymore. Anything that they want, they can get. It doesn't. Does that make any sense? Like there
Yeah.
isn't
No, it does.
there isn't
Yeah.
anything that they can buy a presidency.
Yeah.
Like they can buy cities. They can buy, like, they're to this point to where they just don't understand that eventually the people are going to get tired, and they're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I would like for it to be a civil thing that they do. I don't want to have to.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So
But
it's
yeah, I mean, yeah, and I agree with you. At some point, someone, when you have all these people that have so little, and then you're taking more from them,
exactly.
and
And
yeah, I don't think that's going to end well for you.
but how do you prevent that? By creating a constitution or putting the guardrails, the proper guardrails in a constitution, in something that we have, that now we understand how that slow, like, I mean, and they talk about it all the time. I mean, you had the, the Great Depression in the, in the teens, back in the 19 teens, whatever it was, in 1920s, the Roaring Twenties, and then the
The
Great
Roaring Twenties.
Depression. Like, what, how, how do you put the guardrails up that, like, and that's, regulations and this and that. Oh, well, this happened. Okay, so if we do this, it'll keep from doing this. Well, people are always going to find a way to game the system. You look at any game out there, especially any game that, any type of massively multiplayer online game. They're constantly releasing patches. They're constantly putting new stuff out. They're constantly reinventing how the game works. You still have the basic mechanics of, you go out, you kill stuff, you get loot. It's the basic mechanics of the game. It's the basic mechanics of life. You go out, you work, you get loot. Sometimes you go out and you don't have to work and you get loot. And it's the same. It's the same thing in the games. You do stuff to get loot. You do stuff to
Yeah.
get loot, and then you can buy things, and then you can have things with the loot that you get. However it is you may achieve it. Now you have people that take advantage of those situations and use different things that they find to gain that loot faster or to gain more of that loot. And then the developers come in and they patch to try to make it easier or make it a level playing field for all the people that are doing it. I don't know of any MMO or anything that is releasing any type of new content that does not go through patches. It is not constantly being patched. I don't know that they've ever said, "Yep, we've perfected it. It's done."
Yeah. Well, and what is perfect at the end of the day, right? Like, and who gets to decide that? You know. Um,
Well, I mean, everybody can't be millionaires. We can't have
yeah.
340 millionaires out there. Obviously, can't do that.
No, and I don't think everybody wants to be. I mean, I guess. Well, I don't know. Maybe everybody would want to be a millionaire. Or at least have their basic necessity. I wonder if you did some kind of poll or something like that, where, if you could have all of your basic needs provided for and you list all of those out, right? Would you want more? Would you want to work? Would you like it? Would there be something in your life that you wanted that you felt like that you couldn't have, or that you were being held back from? And I wonder how many people would just be content with enough.
Well, see, the thing is I don't, and this is where everybody, if everybody had all that stuff taken care of, they'd sit around, they'd not do anything, and nothing would ever get accomplished, which I don't believe at all.
I think that's true of
Because
some people. I don't think
no,
it's true of.
no, but if you ask a person, it's like, oh, well, if you had everything taken care of, are you just going to sit around and do? Oh, no, I wouldn't. I would do this. Okay, well then, why do you think everybody else would? Well, because that's what people do. So you would do that? No, I wouldn't, but other people will. It's like, okay,
Yeah, and
sure.
that's usually the roadblock and the argument that wins out for why
Why you
we don't
can't do
try to
that?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why you can't? Why we need to get rid of Social
either that or
Security?
the consolidation of power,
Yeah,
which I understand that argument.
yeah. I
Like
mean,
that one is actually something I can get behind.
yeah. You're talking. You can get rid of Social Security, get rid of Medicaid, get rid of Medicare, because all those things are just free things given out to people. We need to get rid of all of the farm subsidies. We need to get rid of all of the the grants and the money that goes out to businesses, small business. All that needs to go because that's all just free money for people. And that's where it's like
But
it's
here's the thing,
it's
though.
funny. No,
It's our money.
I know, and that's what's the thing about it is you're looking at it. They're looking at it from the perspective like the whole Snap thing that's been happening this month. Have you heard? You've heard
Oh
about
yeah,
that
no, I
Snap?
have a couple of friends that are on Snap that did not get
Yeah,
any assistance this
yeah.
month,
So
and none of them are sitting at home and
that's what they do.
with nothing to do and playing video games.
Yeah, that's what are you talking about? That's what all SNAP recipients do.
I know,
They
I'm my
don't
bad.
anybody that gets any type of handout from the government, obviously it does not work, does not do anything but, sit home and live off the government teat.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
I think that dramatic pause. Do we think that caught it enough?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Uh,
But that's the thing about it. Oh well, I won't, but they will. And then
yeah.
you ask them, so, well, I won't, but they will. Like what?
Well, and I guess my argument to that, or my response to that, would be, why don't you just worry about your damn self, and like, and
But
take
it's
care of what
my
you need to
money.
take to, like, quit worrying about.
But it's my money.
Yeah,
But it's my
and
money.
I don't know how to get people out of that mindset,
It's my
unless they.
that hundreds of millions or hundreds of billions of dollars that Elon Musk has gotten in government grants that he rightly deserves because he is obviously contributing to the to our society very much more than anybody that does any job anywhere in the world. He deserves all of that money that I paid into the government. It's his right.
Absolutely.
Just like the farmers out in the middle of the country or even in other states, like they deserve to get my tax money to subsidize their crop growth and the money that they don't get from their crops. They deserve that money just as much as Elon deserves the money for him to be able to build spaceships and take away work from NASA because the government shouldn't be involved in that. It should be privatized. I hope that the sarcasm is dripping so much that people are swimming in it right now, that they understand. It's
Visibly, I'm pretty sure I can see it at this point.
I
Yeah, no,
but the
I mean, and we're on the same page on this. Like that, it just doesn't. It the math ain't mathing on any of that stuff. And I yeah, man, I don't think it's a problem that I think it's a problem that we're going to solve, or try to come up with a solution over, hopefully over the next couple of years,
I mean
as
we
we
got
move
to
through this.
I mean we don't have that many sections in the Constitution, man. We ain't going to be it ain't going to be years. I mean I don't think we're going to get it done in 4 months. I mean we're already on week
A year,
7.
like I'm sorry I did not fit into your timetable. My apologies. Um,
You best be getting we're going to have to do 2
yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
If you're saying like if it's going to take us 4 years, man, we need to work on that.
I'm talking more about, once we get past the Constitution and once we really try, and I know we're probably going to get through the Constitution. My thought in this is that we're going to get through the Constitution once, and then we're going to start talking about something else and realize, oh, hey, there's this other shit that we need to add, or we
Exactly.
start getting, yeah, and we start getting more feedback and doing other things, and people are going to come up with ideas that we hadn't even thought of.
Well, and I think that that's the biggest thing is what we're doing right now, going through it and learning and understanding it,
Yeah,
seeing where some of the pitfalls are, so that we can reference it. We can reference back to it. It's like, hey, you remember this part of the Constitution to where, you know, like the whole thing with giving the president a line item veto. Hey, we talked about that. We've done this. Well, what if we give the ability for for this body to do a line item veto, or like how do we account for all of the things that we're talking about? Like we're talking about building an algorithm that automatically does districting for all the states. What does that look
yeah,
like? How do you put that into law? How do you select the people that are going to do it? How do you all of those types of things, like it's and then how do you put that information, how do you write it into a constitution that isn't misconstrued, that
yeah. You just write the pseudocode into the Constitution, man.
yeah, I mean you're talking about a part where well, if the president it says here that the president has to return the bill to the house of which it originated, but well, that house isn't open right now, so obviously I can't do that. So and they can't, but I'm not vetoing it.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, and that's just somebody gaming the system. That's somebody min maxing
exactly.
in your video game scenario.
and
I,
and
I'm
that's and that's what we have to look for, and we're not going to see it all at once. It's just like the whole thing with when we were talking about the House of Representatives and or the Section One, which says, hey, you have two. It's a bicameral. It's the House of Representatives and the Senate, people representation and the state representation. And you said, well, is there anybody else that needs to be represented? And we're like, no, that was everybody. And then the next day I came back and said, hey, what if we take
Yeah.
lobbying away and we make a House of Commerce?
Yeah.
What does that look
Yeah.
like? And but when you say that, then looking down through all of the rest of the Constitution of wait a second, how does that affect all of the other pieces? How is that going to be used to game the system? How are we going to prevent this from happening? How do we work out three bodies? How do we work out the three body problem? I mean, if we can solve the three body problem on this podcast, we I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's an achievement in and of itself, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the things that we don't know what all like next week. Actually, next week I will not be around. We're gonna have to take a break next week.
Aw.
So yeah, so that means that it's going to be whatever the day is, whatever the following week is. I can't.
23rd. That'll be the weekend before Thanksgiving.
The weekend before Thanksgiving. That's when we're gonna miss next weekend, but the 23rd we'll be back, and then we are going to talk about what I don't know what's happening. I can't click on anything. Um, we are going to be talking about the what is it, Section 8 in the Constitution, and that is the section about the powers of Congress. Yeah.
Yay.
Yep, the powers of Congress. Which this right here, do you know all of the things that Congress has the power to do?
Not all of them. I mean, not off the top of my head.
Yeah. I
I mean,
mean, that's.
I learned about quite a few of them in my poli sci class recently, but
I mean, you
God,
take, everybody knows that the United States Postal Service is a government entity, right?
I did.
Yeah,
Did you?
I did. But
Okay.
in the powers of Congress, it explicitly states to establish post offices and post roads.
Makes sense
Congress
to
has
me.
has the ability to establish post offices. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things, to promote and progress to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. That's the patent office.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's patent law.
Yeah,
Huh. Yeah, you learn something new every day.
right. You know,
All right.
so we're gonna have a lot ahead of us. Coming up in the next few weeks. The last couple sections of Article One, powers of Congress, the powers denied Congress, and the powers denied the states. And then we're also going to have a look at. I know that the conservative and libertarian constitutions also added about three sections that we'll have to review and look at, to see if we like those, if they make sense, if we can pick them apart, like we had with a couple other ones, looking at the possible bad things that could come out of it. Me and Josh are both very much so devil's advocates here. We like to play the people that say, "Oh yeah, well, what about when this happens?" and make people think. So, but yeah, I think we're about running over on time, just a scotch, but
Just a hair.
just a hair. 3.5 hours. I
You
think I think that's about normal for us. But
yeah.
so next week we are off. Nothing, no podcast next week, but the 23rd we will resume with Section 8
Yay.
of the Powers of Congress.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us and for listening. Hope maybe you learned something or spark some idea or some sense of civic pride, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be.
Hopefully, you got something positive out of this.
Yes, I definitely hope that everybody, you know, takes little nuggets from our weekly chats to, you know, just kind of think about what's going on and to kind of spurn ideas and basically to think, to question and to think and to see what they can do or what ideas they have to make things better. I mean, that is our goal, is to figure out how we can make things better. So until next time, I'm Matt.
Stay safe. Yeah, I'm Josh. Stay safe and make good choices.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.